Both my younger brother and sister got into university at the same time due to limited family resources. My parents and I discussed that they would support my brother, and I would support my sister. I agreed to give my sister 1,500 yuan every month. Later, my sister graduated from university, passed the civil service exam, and became the pride of the whole family. When I fell ill from overwork and reached out to her for help, she blocked me. Back then, my brother got 2,500 a month for living expenses, but you only gave me 1,500. Do you have any idea how I survived those 4 years of college? I died in sickness and despair. When I woke up again, I was back to the time when we were both in university. This time, in response to my parents' request, I said, if you can't afford school, don't go work instead. I went back to the year I graduated. My younger brother and sister both got into university. My mother held my hand, sighing heavily as she poured out the family's hardships. The factory hasn't been doing well this year, and they haven't paid wages for several months now. Having 2 kids in college at the same time is a real struggle. She hopes I can start working soon to help share the burden. You don't need to worry about your brother's expenses. We've already taken care of your sister's tuition. You just need to send her a monthly allowance. Of course, it's not all on you. You're the main provider. And I'm the backup. If you really run out of money, Mom will help you out. Her mouth opened and closed, her tired face overlapping with her past life. Every tear, every glance told me how selfish and thoughtless I was for wanting to pursue graduate studies while the family was in such financial difficulty. In my past life, it was on this very day, I gave up the graduate school offer I already had from a top-tier university and rushed to send out my resume. My undergraduate major was in a fundamental science, making it difficult to find a directly related job. After all that struggle, my monthly salary was only 4,000 every month. I send my sister 1,500, and after paying rent, my money is almost gone. During those years, I worked a second job every day after work, had no time to cook, and relied on 8 yuan meal kits to get by. And no matter how tough it was, every time I transferred money to my sister, I felt a sense of accomplishment. Because when I was in college, my parents didn't give me a penny. I had to work for everything myself, scrimped on meals, and often couldn't even afford sanitary pads. Having been through the rain myself, I also want to hold an umbrella for my sister. Later, my sister lived up to expectations, passing the civil service exam right after graduation and becoming the most successful child in the family. Besides my parents, I was the happiest person. However, since graduation, her attitude towards me has become very cold. I was greatly puzzled. My parents advised me, your sister has grown up, and she can't be as clingy as she was when she was a child. The pressure of working in the public sector is also high, so try to understand her. Although I felt hurt in my heart and didn't understand why, I still obeyed and stopped bothering her. It wasn't until 2 years later that I was diagnosed with stomach cancer due to long-term sleep deprivation and overwork, coupled with irregular eating habits and cheap takeout. I developed cancer at a young age. The surgery costs 80,000 yuan. I only had 20,000 yuan in savings, and my colleagues, feeling sorry for me, pulled money to lend me another 20,000. I still need 40,000 yuan. I turned to my parents for help, but they looked at me with worried faces and told me my brother was getting married soon, the family was in debt, and they simply had no money to give me. Left with no other choice, I reached out to my sister, only to find I had been blocked. I just couldn't wrap my head around it. Why would she do that? When I finally managed to get through to her, all I heard was her icy voice. Back then, you gave my brother 2,500 for his living expenses, but you only gave me 1,500. Do you have any idea how I survived those 4 years of university? I had the lowest allowance in the entire dorm. I never dared to join my roommates when they went out for meals. If I saw a piece of clothing I liked, I wouldn't buy it if it cost more than 200. Even wanting to get a perm meant I had to check my bank balance first. For 4 whole years, I never went on a single trip. I'm a girl too. I deserve nice clothes, quality skincare, and the chance to travel and see the world, but the pittance you gave me sent a clear message that I wasn't worthy of any of that, and that just having enough to eat was all I should expect. I was left completely speechless. She actually thought that way, but I've already done my best, struggling to make ends meet myself. How could I even think of these things? I opened my mouth to explain, but couldn't say a word. In the end, my mid-stage cancer progressed to an advanced stage, and I died alone in a rented apartment, and that day happened to be my sister's wedding day. She walked down the aisle on our father's arm, marrying the son of a wealthy entrepreneur, looking utterly blissful and content. Later, my brother also secured a respectable job through the connections of our sister's in-laws. The family's life kept getting better and better. Only during Qingming festival each year would Mom occasionally remember me, her eldest daughter, and sigh, it's just her lot in life, I suppose. 2. Joanne, my mom saw I wasn't speaking and called out to me several times. I snapped back to reality and glanced around. My brother Caspian, with his door tightly closed, has been gaming all summer long, only coming out for meals. My sister Belle lies on the couch, binge-watching short dramas and reading novels, completely oblivious to the outside world. Meeting my mother's earnest gaze again, I suddenly felt like my past life was a complete joke. Mom, the job market is terrible right now. Even if I skip grad school and get a job, I'd only make a few thousand a month. How could I possibly support my sister on that? My mother's expression froze. But what about your sister? You know how things are at home. Your father's health is poor. His medical bills have already cost a fortune, and we still have the mortgage. She prattled on, her voice choked with emotion. In my previous life, hearing such words, I would have been overwhelmed with guilt and eagerly handed over the money, but now, I smiled. Mom, I know it's not easy for you, but my younger siblings are all adults now. It shouldn't be up to me alone to share the burden. College students can take out loans or work part-time. Didn't I manage that way when I was in school? If the family can't afford it, they should figure it out themselves, right? Hearing this, my sister, who had been glued to her phone, suddenly regained her hearing and sprang up from the sofa. What do you mean by that, sis? Just because you're unhappy? You want to take away my freedom during college? How have I deprived you of your freedom? She looked up, her eyes full of disdain. Girls should be raised in affluence. College is the most beautiful time of one's life, meant for self-improvement and enjoying youth. Working part-time only wastes time on meaningless low-end labor. People like you who seek out unnecessary hardship have such limited perceptions. A lengthy piece of internet motivational talk made perfect sense. I'm utterly speechless, holding back my inner sarcasm. I smile. Don't you dare blame me. Who said you had to work? Mom said she and Dad can fully support one of you. Since you can't handle hardship, it seems the younger brother will have to bear it instead. In the midst of speaking, I glance at my mom. Mom, I saw the transfer you made to my brother, $2,500 a month. Since my sister says girls should be pampered, that money should go to her instead. Belle was incredulous upon hearing this. Mom, you told me yesterday that we didn't have any money, so how come you're giving Caspian so much? Don't be so biased. My mother's face turned sour instantly, and her voice became sharp. What do you mean by bias? Boys naturally have bigger appetites. The prices at his school are so high. How can he eat enough without 2,000 or 3,000? As a sister, you don't even know how to feel sorry for your brother, and now you're fighting over his meal money. I really wasted all these years raising you, Belle exploded. Don't tell me you're not playing favorites. I just found out today that you don't love me at all. I don't care. Whatever you give him, you have to give me the same. She started bawling her eyes out. My mom slammed the table and started yelling. The whole scene was a noisy, chaotic mess. Amidst their heated argument, I let out a cold laugh and quietly slipped out the front door. In my past life, about 6 months after Belle started school, she had also thrown a fit with our parents after accidentally finding out how much allowance our brother was getting. But back then, Mom told her, we're only responsible for your brother. You're your sister's responsibility. If she doesn't give you much, that's her problem. That one sentence made her resent me for years. In this life, I've ripped off that fig leaf ahead of time. Let them tear each other apart. I decisively left for school to begin my graduate studies. I heard Belle made a big fuss for a long time, and our parents finally agreed to give her $1,000 every month. She complained that it wasn't enough. Mom soothed. It's not that I'm being unfair. Originally, since your sister graduated, we hoped she could help share some of the family's burden and take care of your living expenses. Who knew she would only think about herself? If she had started working earlier, you wouldn't be in such a difficult position. With a few deft words, they skillfully deflected the conflict right back onto me. 2 weeks into the new semester, I received a link. Hey sis, Mom and Dad already covered the living expenses, so it's not too much to ask you to get me a new phone, right? It's an iPhone 16 Pro, costing nearly 10,000 yuan. Just like in my past life, she always demanded things from me as if it were her birthright, and back then, I was strapped for cash and couldn't afford that much. I gritted my teeth and transferred 3,000 yuan, urging her to buy a Xiaomi phone. You're still in school, there's no need for such an expensive phone. Domestic brands offer much better value for money. Yet, this became the evidence of how I had wounded her pride. A long time later, I heard her say, back then, all my classmates were using the latest Apple models, but you made me use a cheap domestic phone. Do you know how ashamed I felt? Since Xiaomi made her feel inferior, I won't buy it in this lifetime. That should eliminate the feeling of inferiority, right? I typed back with a flick of my fingers, you're a student. And so am I. What do I have to buy for you? Isn't there a stipend for graduate school? The graduate stipend only totals a little over 1,000. I'm a bit speechless. That stipend isn't even enough to cover meals. I'm broke. She was furious. Then you should go out and work. How can you afford to study for a master's degree without money? The family is tight on finances. And you don't even try to share the burden with your parents. How selfish. I laughed. Why don't you go out and work? How did you afford to go to college without money, knowing the family is struggling? Why don't you drop out and go work? Aren't you selfish? She sent a voice message, her voice sharp. How can I be like you? As the eldest sister, it's your responsibility to take care of the family. Besides, with your hardworking nature, you're destined for factory work. Reading more books would just be a waste. It's better to invest resources in someone more valuable, realizing it after 2 lifetimes. The sister I always loved never respected me. Perhaps it's because I was bound by my parents' strict upbringing from a young age, taking on responsibilities that were never truly mine to bear, to the point that the younger siblings I practically raised have subconsciously come to see me as a nanny. I studied my emotions and spoke. Exactly, someone as valuable as you, yet you have to beg for a phone. She flew off the handle as if she'd been stepped on. What's the big deal? I can afford it just fine. Without you, I turned off the screen and didn't engage any further. 2 months later, it was on Belle's social media feed that I saw the latest iPhone. She had a fresh manicure and posted gorgeous travel photos, living a chic and carefree life. The allowance from her parents could never cover expenses like that. Given her personality, it's unlikely she earned that money from a part-time job. I thought about it. I opened her university's official website. Sure enough, I found her name on the financial aid list. To be honest, our family's financial situation isn't exactly comfortable, but we're not truly poor either. My parents own the home we live in, plus another resettlement property they rent out. Their combined monthly income is over 10,000 yuan. It's just that they're not willing to spend much on their daughter. That's why, even though I'm struggling too, I wouldn't take opportunities away from genuinely impoverished families. Belle, however, clearly lacks this awareness. After pondering for a moment, added her school's confession wall, sent an anonymous message. Soon, a post appeared on the confession wall exposing a poor student spending extravagantly with a scholarship. A heated debate erupted on the school forum. Faced with her classmates' questions, Belle retorted defiantly, I did use the financial aid for food. I paid for the phone and the trip with my own money. Her self-righteous attitude sparked widespread outrage. Her classmates reported the incident to the dean's office one after another. She was quickly disqualified as a poor student. She was also given a disciplinary warning. She was so angry that she went on a rant in her moments. I don't know which sour chicken reported it, but why can't poor students travel or buy an iPhone? The money is mine once it's given to me, and I can spend it however I want. Do you live by the sea? Why are you so nosy? Watching her helplessly raging, I casually swiped past, observing like a civilized spectator. Without my support, my scholarship was also cancelled. Belle's life is even more strained than in her previous life. In the end, she still had to do the meaningless labor she despised. However, her personality couldn't handle hardship. She found washing dishes too dirty, making milk tea too tiring, and tutoring too frustrating to deal with unruly kids. After all the running around, I haven't made any money. Every day is a struggle, filled with endless complaints. Meanwhile, I'm focused on my research and projects. I follow my mentor to conferences everywhere, busy yet fulfilling. Having lived 2 lives to earn this graduate school opportunity, I cherish it with all my heart. Watching the data gradually take shape, the regrets from my past life are slowly mending. 3 years passed in the blink of an eye. As graduation approached, I started looking into campus recruitment opportunities. With the platform of a prestigious university, the opportunities in this life are far greater than in the previous one. I successfully passed the technical interview for a state-owned enterprise. The unit is located 2,000 kilometers south of home. The salary and benefits meet expectations. 11. My mom quickly called. Joanne, how's your job situation going? She barely contacted me in the past 3 years, afraid I'd ask her for money. She's finally back in action now. After learning that I'm heading south, I'm starting to worry again. Girls shouldn't go too far. It's easy to get bullied. Try to stay closer to home, so we can take care of you. I looked at the WeChat chat interface. The last record was over half a year ago. I couldn't help but laugh. In my past life, I listened to her and found a job close to home. From then on, I became their dedicated, on-call caregiver. Every time my parents got sick and needed the hospital, I was the only one they called. From making appointments and paying bills to tests and hospital stays, I handled everything alone, both the legwork and the expenses. They never once felt comfortable asking their younger siblings to do anything. Because their sister's work was important, and their brother, being a boy, didn't know how to take care of others. It was utterly absurd and ridiculous. 12. I steadied myself and began to speak. Mom, you always say I'm the eldest sister. I should be sensible. I'm all grown up now. How can I just cling to you? My younger siblings are still young. It's perfect. They can graduate next year and come back to keep you company. My words caught her off guard, leaving her momentarily speechless. After a moment, she said sheepishly, take care over there. Your father's not in the best of health, so try to come home more often. I gave a noncommittal reply. I hurriedly packed my things and made a quick exit to report to my new workplace. The benefits at the new job were pretty impressive. Employees have dormitories, no need to rent their own apartments. The cafeteria offers a variety of dishes. With 4 dishes and 1 soup every day, I no longer have to live in a ramshackle partition room and outsmart the subleaser, nor do I have to eat the ready-made meal combo of lymphatic meat and gutter oil, occasionally finding wires and hair in my food. After work, I'd cozy up in my own little world, eating cake and binge-watching variety shows. It was a blissful contentment I'd never known before. Meanwhile, Belle was entering her final year of university, just like in her previous life. She once again joined the army of civil service exam candidates. This time, she failed to make the cut. She didn't even get a chance to interview. When I heard the news, I wasn't surprised. In her previous life, she said she wanted to take the civil service exam, and I paid for her to attend a training class. It was also me who asked the boss to help issue an internship certificate so she could focus on her studies. Now, without any guidance, she has to juggle finding an internship, running back and forth every day. When she returns to the dorm exhausted at night, her study efficiency takes a big hit. As the exam date approached, she wanted to sign up for a prep course, but the tuition was 5,000 yuan. She turned to her parents for help, only to be met with excuses. Those prep courses are all scams. True talent shines anywhere. If you're truly capable, you'll pass the exam no matter what. Money is useless for those who lack ability. This outcome was expected. In her previous life, she always believed she succeeded in one go purely due to talent, but she overlooked that most people in this world are ordinary. Only a select few can overcome their circumstances and rise above the mire. Without a helping hand, most people are destined for mediocrity. Belle was lost in melancholy for a long time. She vowed to succeed next time for sure. Struggling with financial difficulties, I had no choice but to look for a job. Seeing that they couldn't persuade me, my parents started thinking about keeping a daughter close by, so they resurfaced, using the same tactics to persuade her. Stay closer to home, so we can take care of you and it will be easier for you to prepare for next year's exam. Don't be like your sister, who we barely see all year round. All those years of raising her were in vain. So, Belle turned down the offer from the provincial capital and returned to her hometown, finding a clerical job to continue her preparations. Caspian, however, was unwilling to stay in a small place. I was dead set on getting out there and making my own way. My mom got in touch with me right away. Joanne, now that your job is settled, and your brother wants to look for work down south, why don't you let him stay with you? You can look out for each other. I just laughed. It's true what they say, daughters are meant to stay close, while sons can spread their wings and fly far, always knowing there's a safety net below. Caspian has never even washed his own socks at home, let alone cooked or done the dishes. That's completely out of the question. I'm not sure what this so-called mutual care is supposed to look like. I lay on the sofa petting the cat and lazily let out a yawn. Mom, Shadi has already said he wants to go out and make his own way. He doesn't want to be arranged by others. You're still making him live with me. He must feel so uncomfortable. Besides, aren't you hoping he finds a girlfriend and gets married soon? Living with his sister at his age, it's not going to help his chances. Before she could respond, I added, all right, Mom, I have to go to work now. Then I quickly hung up the phone. For a long time after that, I deliberately reduced contact with my family. I went to work and came home on schedule, cooked meals, and fed the cat. Life was quite comfortable. In my 4th year at the company, I had saved up enough, combined with a talent subsidy, to buy an apartment near the office. The day I moved in, it was a pleasantly warm winter day with perfect sunshine. My cat nuzzled against me over and over, absolutely over the moon. After a life of drifting, I finally felt I had a real home at that moment. 17. Seeing my family again was at the end of the year. I went home for the new year. After several years, my parents didn't seem to have changed much. Caspian landed a job in the provincial capital. The pay was just enough to get by, but he was driving a family-bought BMW 3 Series and had a girlfriend, making his life seem pretty cushy. Belle, on the other hand, was still working as a clerk in a small county town, earning a monthly salary of 2,000 yuan. She had been taking the civil service exams for 3 consecutive years, from the national level down to the provincial ones, without a single offer to show for it. Studying at home for these exams turned out to be far more challenging than she had ever imagined. The job of a clerk in a small company is not easy. It's common to wear multiple hats, and overtime is sometimes required. With her parents being busy, she inevitably ends up handling some household chores. She's the first person they turn to when they have a headache or feel unwell. In all, there's hardly any time left for reading. On top of that, her post-graduation life was completely different from her time as a student, and she herself had grown complacent. This led to her being stuck in a state of perpetual exam preparation. Her parents' expressions grew increasingly grim, constantly nagging that she was an embarrassment. She is no longer as spirited as she once was, and has become much more dispirited. During the New Year's gathering, my relatives all praised me for being capable and successful. Not only am I a graduate student from a prestigious university, but I also landed such a great job, with such a capable sister. Her brother won't have any trouble finding a wife. Mom and Dad were delighted to hear this. Out of our 3 children, Joanne is the most sensible and filial. We'll be counting on her in the future. Upon hearing this, the relatives once again showered them with envious praise. The atmosphere was warm and convivial, and the conversation seemed to be about me, yet somehow felt completely detached from me. Before I could even respond, Belle suddenly spoke up. What's the point of having a good job if you're still so selfish? You've never lifted a finger to help the family. As soon as the words were out, the relatives exchanged awkward glances, and the atmosphere turned a bit tense. I quietly finished gnawing on a pork joint. I looked up, grinning with teeth bared. You're all too kind, uncles and aunts. I'm just a working stiff, barely getting by. Nothing to boast about. When it comes to being sensible and filial, how can I compare to my sister? These years, she's been preparing for the civil service exams while taking care of our parents. No one in the family is more filial than her. She'll definitely be able to support our brother in the future, so you don't need to worry. He finished speaking, raised an eyebrow at Belle, and gave a mischievous smile. She was so furious her face turned green, her teeth grinding. 20 Caspian's girlfriend is named Amber, a girl from another province, dark-skinned and slender, with somewhat masculine features. She was a few years older than him. The two of them got along very well. They were practically glued to each other the entire spring festival, in every situation, creating a beautiful little world of their own. Except for Caspian, she met everyone else with a stony face and wouldn't say a word. She takes the red envelopes from relatives without a word of thanks. My parents always feel awkward about it, but they can't help it since their son likes her, so they just accept it. The plan was to finalize their marriage right after the Lunar New Year, but Amber said she didn't want to leave her parents. She insisted that Caspian buy a home and settle down near her family, and it had to be paid in full, at least 3 million, with the betrothal gifts and the 5 golds. This wedding is going to cost at least 5 million. This really put my parents in a tough spot, but Caspian was completely swept up in the moment and refused to back down. So, the day before I was due to go back to work, my mom hesitated before coming to talk to me. Joanne, you know our family's situation. Your brother and sister are unreliable. They've been working for years but still live paycheck to paycheck, not saving a single penny. I was eating walnuts with tangerines, my mouth full, pretending not to understand. Oh, seeing that I wasn't taking the bait, she looked a bit awkward. I hear the compensation at your company is top-notch. Be honest with your mother. How much have you saved these past few years? I did a quick mental calculation and answered solemnly, -800,000, with 30 years left on the loan. What? She shot up from the couch with a sharp, piercing shriek. You bought a house. You actually bought a house. How could you buy a house? 21. The family's faces turned a spectacular mix of green, red, and black. Caspian, big sis. How could you buy a house without even discussing it with the family, keeping such a huge decision from mom and dad? Do you even see us as family anymore? Belle said while painting her nails. A woman buying her own place just lowers her value on the marriage market. Carrying a mortgage around, be careful, or you'll never get married. My mom chimed in, exactly. Once you're married, you'll have a place to live naturally, if you buy your own home. What man would dare take you on, carrying over 800,000 in debt all by yourself? That's a lot of pressure. Listen to your mother. Put that apartment of yours on the market for whatever you can get. Let's help the family get through this rough patch first. When you get married, your father and I will give you a car as part of your dowry. That's one heck of an empty promise. What a sweet dream. I almost clapped in applause. My mom's skill at making promises she can't keep is way better than my boss's at work. Turning to her with her eager gaze, I smiled faintly, neither fully smiling nor fully serious. Mom, you're right. Repaying a loan alone is indeed tough, and I know you care about me. All right, forget the dowry car. How about you just front me a few $100,000 to pay off my mortgage early? Once I own my apartment outright, that'll be my dowry and I won't have to worry about being left on the shelf. In a few years, I'll work harder and contribute more to the family. Caspian's still young anyway, there's no rush for him to buy a place for a few more years, just empty promises. As if that's hard to do. Hearing this, she got flustered. What are you talking about? I've told you, girls don't need to own a house. Why can't you understand? For boys, getting married is the top priority, no matter how difficult it is. That's what comes first. Caspian also shouted. Exactly, Amber said we must buy a house and get married this year, or else she'll go back to matchmaking. Sister, how can you be so selfish? You spent years' worth of salary without a word, and now you have the audacity to ask mom and dad to pay off your loans. Mom and dad raised you. Have you ever shown them a shred of gratitude? And now you're after their money? I laughed. Exactly. I'm the most selfish. How can I compare to you? You weren't raised by your parents. You were grown in a hydroponic lab. You're not after their money. You just want a measly $3 million dowry to marry into the family. His face flushed and paled in turns. Mom, look at her. I turned my head leisurely and gave Mom a slight smile. I've heard of men marrying into their wife's family, but I've never heard of one bankrupting his own family to pay for the privilege. Did he ever think about your future when he took all your wealth to settle in a distant place? She fell silent, her eyes flickered with helplessness. I sighed. You can spend whatever you want to help your precious sons love life, but don't even think about making me the sucker. That's all I have to say. I've said what needed to be said. It's up to them how they proceed. 22. As it turned out, my advice fell on deaf ears. My parents went ahead and sold their 2 properties, scraping together over 3 million yuan to buy a flat in the woman's hometown. They plan to go with them in the future to help take care of the kids. The only problem is that Belle has nowhere to live. She got into an argument with her parents. It was you who told me to come back. And now you're all leaving. What am I supposed to do? My mother didn't go easy on her either. How can you even bring that up? Look at how old you are. You take the civil service exam every year and fail every year. You don't have a job. You're not making any money. If you keep dragging your feet like this, how old will you be? Do you want to stay at your parents' house forever as an old maid? Don't end up like your sister, dragging it out until no one will marry you while you're still young. Hurry up and find a good family to marry into. A girl has to get married eventually. Your husband's home is your real home. So, under pressure, Belle joined the ranks of those looking for love. 23. In this life, without the boost of a government job, she naturally didn't receive the favor of the entrepreneur's son as she had in her previous life. Most of the men she was set up with were the perennial leftovers on the matchmaker's list, the dregs of the barrel, men a decade older, divorced with kids, missing limbs, and even some who had just finished their time in prison. After all the filtering, not a single normal one remained. For months on end, she was either complaining or on her way to complain. In the end, her parents couldn't wait any longer. They went around asking for connections and finally introduced someone who seemed passable. The other party was a 28-year-old guy, a junior college graduate, working in a machinery factory with a monthly salary of $6,000. His parents are farmers in the countryside. They used their life savings to buy him an apartment in the county town. And he has a younger sister still in school. His circumstances were utterly ordinary, his looks were nothing special, and he fell far short of Belle's expectations, but among the oddballs in this small county town, he was a breath of fresh air. In the end, she reluctantly gave her nod of approval. With the marriages of their son and daughter settled, my parents finally felt at ease. They were deeply relieved, feeling that their life's mission was almost complete. Thinking of me, their unmarried eldest daughter, my mother's maternal instincts kicked in to persuade me. Look at you, the oldest of the 3 siblings, and you're still not married. It's embarrassing to even mention it. I'm rushing to finish the project and I'm overwhelmed. Straight to the point, not getting married is shameful. So conversely, the more times you marry, the less shameful it is. So why stick to one tree, Mom and Dad? Why not divorce and marry multiple times? She was so angry she couldn't speak properly. All that education went to waste. 24. Belle's wedding is set for mid-year. The groom's family showed great sincerity by offering a betrothal gift of 188,000 yuan, along with 5 gold items and a diamond, as well as a visit gift and a name change fee. All the proper customs were observed. Belle's parents were overjoyed, praising their future son-in-law for being so considerate. Belle's lingering dissatisfaction faded significantly on the day the betrothal gift was received. She dove headfirst into a whirlwind of wedding preparations. She joyfully shared photos of her wedding dress, the venue, and her gown on social media. Everything was going smoothly, that is, until the night before the wedding. Out of the 188,000 yuan bride price, her father only gave her 40,000. He kept the rest for himself. Naturally, she was furious and had a huge fight with him then. My mom stepped in with her usual routine to try and calm her down. After all, you're still young, and holding such a large sum of money It's inevitable that your in-laws will be concerned. Don't worry, Mom doesn't want your money. I'll keep the rest safe for you, and add a bit more when you have a child and give it all to you. The argument was fruitless. Under a mix of persuasion and pressure, she had no choice but to swallow the big pie her parents had drawn for her. She left home with a dowry of 40,000 yuan worth of household appliances and quilts. 25. Once the daughter's wedding was settled, her parents rushed off in a great hurry, taking all their worldly possessions with them to join their son, back in place. Not a bad outcome. 26. After marriage, Belle's life was fairly comfortable. My husband hands over his entire salary to me, with an extra 2,000 to 3,000 from my in-laws each month. Our combined finances are much more comfortable than before we got married. My mother-in-law handles all the housework, so I don't have to lift a finger. Later, she even quit her clerical job, using the need to focus on her studies as the reason. Waking up naturally every day, shopping for clothes, playing mahjong, and getting manicures. Life is quite comfortable. After she was confirmed pregnant, she was practically treated like a queen by the whole family. Even meals were brought to her bedside. She thoroughly enjoyed such pampered days and would occasionally come to show off to me, making snide remarks. Old spinsters always aim too high. With such a meager salary and a mortgage to pay, they're still single at an age when they should have settled down. Dreaming of marrying into wealth, I smiled faintly, neither agreeing nor disagreeing. 2. A year later, her child was born. As soon as the money-eating beast arrives, expenses like milk powder, diapers, and various other costs come pouring in. The life of the small-town noblewoman finally becomes unsustainable. Belle's social circle is now filled with complaints, complaining about her husband's lack of ability, her in-laws' lack of support, and the financial burden of her sister-in-law, who is still in school, persuading the in-laws to take out all their retirement savings, subtly and overtly, also demanding that the younger sister-in-law, a high school senior, drop out early to work and help support the family. Constant squabbling, and over time, arguments inevitably arise. However, the cost of marriage in rural families is too high, so divorce is not an easy option. In the end, the man gave in, and she was well aware of this, becoming even more reckless. This bickering went on for 3 years, until the child's congenital heart disease flared up, requiring surgery. After managing the household finances for 3 years, there wasn't a single cent left in the bank account, and online loans were overdue by over 100,000. The tension that had been building for so long finally erupted completely at that moment. She remained defiant and self-righteous. I had a job of my own. If I hadn't married into your family, would my life be this miserable? You're poor and useless yourselves. You should be thanking your lucky stars you even managed to get a wife. How dare you blame me? The other party, having reached their limit, slammed down the divorce papers. I won't stand in your way of finding someone more capable. 27. Belle got divorced. She left with nothing. The house was bought by the husband before the marriage, so she has no claim to it. All their marital assets were squandered, leaving only hundreds of thousands in debt. Without a job, she naturally had no chance of winning custody. When she left her husband's home alone, she looked around and realized she was penniless and had nowhere to go. The bride price was still in her parents' hands. When she made the call, they're busy holding their grandson, laughing and enjoying family happiness. My mom is full of impatience. How dare you mention the betrothal gifts? Didn't it cost money to raise you this big? Didn't it cost money to host the wedding banquet when you got married? Have you been filial to us even a bit in these years? Have you helped your family at all? Now you want to drag down your family again. Are you trying to cause your brother to divorce too? It was only then that she realized the earlier offer to keep it safe for her had been nothing but a pretext. She had been deceived by her own birth parents, utterly and completely deceived. 28. After that, I almost completely lost touch with her. Her social media feeds went silent, and she stopped contacting the family altogether. No one knows where she went. My parents, as ever, are happily doting on their grandson and revolving their world around my brother's family. It's as if this daughter never existed. It wasn't until 2 years later that I received a call from the doctor. Belle had an accident on the assembly line and was in critical condition at the hospital. The staff first contacted the immediate family. Their parents quickly rushed over after finding out. They sounded very anxious, pleading with the doctor to save her at all costs. They hesitated when they saw the medical bill. They started calculating if there would be insurance compensation and how much would be left after paying the medical fees. The doctor, clearly accustomed to such situations, let out a knowing sigh. Meanwhile, Belle in the hospital bed clutched his sleeve, begging him to contact me. 29. When I entered the ward, she was covered in tubes, already on the brink of death. I remember everything now, she said. I was slightly stunned, then I sat down and poured a Glass of water. So, you think your college life was miserable in your past life, and it's all my fault. Tears welled up in the corners of her eyes. I'm sorry. Deep down, she knew exactly who was truly responsible for her financial struggles, who is the real profiteer of this family, yet she neither dared nor wished to resist. Because of me, the straw from her birth family won't directly drain her lifeblood. She can hide under her parents' wings, enjoying my support together even after the profiteers have had their fill. They still manage to get a share. Only when the providers flee and resources become scarce do the contradictions become apparent. I'm really sorry, sister. Could you help me again? With her last ounce of strength, hope shone in her eyes. In the ward, the infusion pump kept ticking away, and the monitor continued to alarm outside the ward. Her relatives weighed the pros and cons, calculating how much value they could squeeze out of her. I fell silent for a moment. In my previous life, I also died in the hospital. Until the end, I never waited for you. I'm not a saint, not that forgiving. After being bitten once, I wouldn't go save a venomous snake. After saying that, I turned and left the ward. Everyone has their own destiny, and not everyone deserves a second chance from fate. Half a year after Belle's death, the compensation was settled. My parents wept bitterly, then happily accepted the money. 2 weeks later, Caspian got a new car, and my sister-in-law bought a new bracelet and handbag. Mom and Dad were showing off their freshly made dumplings and their chubby grandson Andoine. The family's life was getting better and better, just like it did after I died in my previous life. 31. Then later, their beloved grandson grew up, while the health of the elderly couple gradually declined. Mom's herniated disc made it impossible for her to work, and Dad's arthritis started making his legs and feet unsteady. The sister-in-law's face turned sour, and she started nitpicking and arguing. Caspian often chose to remain silent to appease his wife. Finally, when the child graduated from middle school and was about to enter high school as a boarder, the sister-in-law laid it out. Once a son gets married, he has his own little family. Parents need to respect boundaries and not cling to their son all the time. We need our own space too. You can't always rely on your son for your old age. You've lived all these years, and if you didn't save up when you were young, you can't just turn to your son now. Have you ever considered the pressure we're under? Every expense for this whole family adds up, and there will be plenty of costs when our own child goes to university. If all else fails, you still have a daughter. You raised her, so it's her responsibility to take care of you. You didn't give birth to or raise your daughter-in-law. Legally, she has no obligation to support you. And so, amidst the daughter-in-law's scornful remarks and the son's silence, the elderly parents, frail and ill, were driven out of their home. 32. I was on vacation when I got a call from my mom. They returned to their hometown, but their house in the county had been sold, leaving them with nowhere to go. The only place left was a mud house in the countryside that my grandmother had left behind. It's in terrible condition after years of neglect. They thought about fixing it up to move in, but all their savings over the years went to supporting their grandson, leaving no money for repairs. That's why they reached out to me. Joanne, I know I was wrong. I finally understand now that you were right all along. Your brother is unreliable. It's only in my old age that I've come to realize how good a daughter is to have. After sobbing and rambling on for a long time, she finally got to the point. The roof in our village house is leaking, and your father's health is failing. His legs have been hurting for years, but we can't afford to see a doctor. Can you help the family out now that you have some money? I listened silently to the almost pitiful plea coming through the phone. I feel completely unmoved. After a long pause, he spoke in a flat, indifferent tone. Your legs have been hurting for years. That means it started when you were at Caspian's place. Why didn't you have him take you to get it checked? She fell silent. For over a decade, I've slaved away for my son, never letting him shoulder a single burden of my illness. I was terrified of causing him the slightest inconvenience. It was only in front of my daughter that I allowed myself to feel the full weight of my pain. Without waiting for her reply, I pressed on. The law only recognizes the investor. You bought his house and his car. As long as you sue, you can take them back. There was hesitation on the other end of the line. But if you do that, your sister-in-law will definitely divorce, and your brother's family will fall apart. I couldn't help but laugh. That's exactly what I expected. See, they're not ignorant, nor are they without solutions. They simply choose not to act. She laments her son's coldness, complains about his lack of filial piety, yet she can't bear to harm his interests in the slightest. She praises her daughter's virtues, enjoys her daughters, yet refuses to give her any support. They shower their daughters with empty words, but their sons with money. I've long grown accustomed to it. Well, that's just the way it is. People act in their own interest. There's no logic in leaving the property to the son, then expecting the daughter to provide care in old age. She's starting to play the family obligation card again. But we raised you, didn't we? We never mistreated you. Are you really going to forget the debt you owe us for raising you, all because we didn't give you a house? Since ancient times, family property has always gone to the son. We had no choice. Your brother can't get married without a house, but you can always marry into someone else's family. I listened to her in silence, my voice remaining calm. So, out of respect for the debt of raising me, if you go ahead and sue Caspian, I'll cover the legal fees, and I'll make sure you're properly taken care of from now on. Then, amidst the sound of her sobbing, I decisively hung up the phone. 33. After that, they came to see me a few more times. They kept repeating the same old tune. Just couldn't bring themselves to press charges against their precious son. After several rounds of tearful pleas got them nowhere, they finally gave up. They moved into a leaky mud house and complained to their neighbors about their children's lack of filial piety. Soon after, the younger brother's wife brought her own parents to live in their marital home to take care of them. Caspian instantly became a model son-in-law, taking his in-laws to see doctors, buy medicine, and go on outings, even more attentive than a real son. The family lived in harmony and happiness, the son and the house that mom and dad toiled for. Their entire lives ended up being enjoyed by others. 34. In the final years of the old couple's lives, Caspian came back once. It was after mom was bedridden and dad had a fall that the village committee and relatives got in touch with him. He arrived in a rush, covered in dust, accusing me of being unfilial in front of a crowd of relatives and elders. My parents are so sick. Yet you haven't come back to see them even once all these years, I scoffed. You're the most filial, so why haven't I seen you taking care of them in their old age? How can you say I didn't support them? Mom and dad lived with me for over a decade, and I was the one providing for them, and you couldn't even be bothered to look after them for their final few years. What a waste raising you, he declared self-righteously. We were your beasts of burden for more than 10 years, one of us managing the household and raising the kids, the other taking odd jobs to support your whole family, and now you have the nerve to claim you were the one taking care of our parents. Caspian, I'm genuinely in awe of your audacity. How do you manage to keep a straight face? Before he could retort, I added, well, if you say I'm unfilial, then so be it. Since you're the paragon of filial piety, I assume you'll have no problem taking dad to get his leg treated, right? Given the crowd, he had no choice but to grit his teeth. Fine, I'll go. Unlike you, I'm not ungrateful. He took his father to the hospital and got an X. Ray, the doctor recommended surgery with a steel plate implant, with a total budget of 10,000 yuan. Hearing how much it would cost, he hesitated. Before he could even finish the admission paperwork, his sister-in-law called, saying she had a fever and didn't feel well, urging him to come home immediately. So, he had the doctor prescribe some painkillers and anti-inflammatory medication, and told his father to rest well and take good care of himself. Eat whatever you feel like, and don't overexert yourself. The only thing was, he didn't leave a single penny behind. My parents were completely shattered. They loved their daughter with empty words, and their son loved them the same way. 35. In this life, having broken free from the burdens of family, I threw myself into my work, and it paid off handsomely. After years of dedication, I participated in the professional title assessment at my workplace and was successfully promoted. It so happened that my direct supervisor retired, and I stepped into his role. That evening, I was alone in my little nest. We cooked hot pot, poured sweet wine, and basked under a sky full of stars to celebrate the ever-improving version of myself. Story 2. Every ghost festival, the Chen family's daughter must be the first to offer incense to ensure the village's safety. But this year, just as I was about to light the incense, Lena, the college student next door on summer break, rushed over and snatched it from my hands. She dropped to her knees before the deity statue, kowtowing with loud thuds. Almighty deity, please grant me success in next year's civil service exam, $1 million salary, and a handsome, successful boyfriend. In a deserted corner, a single tear of blood trickled from the deity's eye. I immediately severed my right finger and ordered 100 roosters to be offered as tribute. Only then did the deity's lingering resentment begin to fade. But the next day, every young child in the village died with blood streaming from all 7 orifices. On the third day, all the young adults in the village hanged themselves, leaving only the words atonement written in fresh blood on the ground. Lena rushed to my doorstep, screaming, "It must be you, you black-hearted monster, using some dark sorcery to harm everyone." The villagers instantly rallied behind her accusation, convinced I had sacrificed the entire village through dark magic in exchange for boundless wealth. They burned me alive, then used black dog's blood to suppress my spirit, condemning me to eternal Damnation, when I opened my eyes again, I didn't say a word. I packed my bags and left with Chloe under the cover of night, without a daughter of the Chin family to guard the village. This place would soon fall into ruin. The next time I opened my eyes, Lena snatched the incense from my hands and knelt before the deity's statue. She kowtowed fervently, her eyes blazing with a desperate longing for wealth and glory. Dear deity, please grant me success in next year's civil service exam, a 6-figure salary, and a devoted, handsome partner who's completely smitten with me. I bit my finger and smeared the blood across my forehead. The statue shed 2 trails of bloody tears, its accumulated resentment 1,000 times heavier than in its previous life. Lena snorted triumphantly and deliberately pressed the burning incense stick against my arm. Stop with the theatrics, Chin family. This only Chin women can light the first incense. Nonsense. You're just trying to squeeze more money out of everyone, aren't you? At her words, the villagers turned to glare at me with clear displeasure. A man smoking a long-stemmed pipe gave me a dismissive once-over. Exactly, every year, it's your Chin family collecting funds and running these ceremonies. He looked up at our recently painted white wall, curling his lip in disdain. Living the high life, aren't you? Bet you've been pocketing plenty of kickbacks. My sister scowled with anger, rushing up to me and shouting at the top of her lungs. We never took any kickbacks. The money everyone chips in each year barely covers a few sticks of incense. My sister always ends up covering the shortfall. The man shoved my sister to the ground in a rage and aimed to kick at her abdomen. After I died in my previous life, the villagers sold her off to the neighboring village of widowers. My sister was perpetually hungry, her face sallow and gaunt. Forced to bear sons for the men in the village, he ended up catching a filthy disease and was dragged to the back hills to be fed to the wild dogs. I clenched my fists, a murderous glint flashing in my eyes, and landed a heavy punch on the man's shoulder. Enough. From now on, you handle the sacrificial rites yourselves. Chloe, refund their money, just like in my past life. Lena patted my cheek with a laugh. That's more like it. The villagers grinned from ear to ear as they received the money, saying they could buy a few more pounds of pork tomorrow. Little did they know, the malevolent spirits suppressed beneath the statue had broken free from the seal and were now clinging greedily to their shoulders, feeding on their life force. It wouldn't be long before this place turned into a living hell. I had barely stepped inside when Faye burst through my door, clutching her child whose face was streaming with blood from all orifices. She let out a piercing wail and dropped to her knees before me with a heavy thud. Dora, please save Liam. He was perfectly fine during the ritual earlier, chewing on candy while playing by the entrance. I just looked away for a second, and he was already on the ground convulsing and coughing up blood. The doorway was immediately crowded with people, and Lena peered in to see. I held Liam on my lap, a fully formed malevolent spirit clinging to his shoulder, desperately draining his life force. This is a tough situation. Faye saw my grim expression and started kowtowing desperately, tears and snot streaming down her face, begging me to step in. After all, I've watched Liam grow up. I sighed and pulled a black bottle from my robe, handing it to Chloe. Sis, go pull up the weeds at the southeast corner of our courtyard, brew them with this bottle's contents and drink the tea. Lena sneered and threw the sunflower seed shells in her hand right at my face. We live in a scientific age, and you're still trying to harm people with that feudalistic nonsense. Faye froze, eyeing me with suspicion. Dora, you really know how to save Liam, don't you? My heart instantly turned cold. Faye had never trusted me at all. Soon after, Chloe came trotting over with a bowl of steaming herbal medicine. Gripping the edge of the bowl, I tried to pour the medicine into Liam's mouth, but Faye clamped down on my hand, pressing her lips together in hesitation. Dora, are you sure this method actually works? The others were munching on sunflower seeds like they were watching a show, and they brought up that incident from the year before last again. Back then, someone who had lost their soul came to me seeking help, and I instructed them to hang the spirit calling banner facing north for 7 days. But after just 3 days, once his spirits had recovered, he went ahead and tossed the banner away. He was eventually found dead, having crashed into a tree by the river. Liam's lips grew even paler. I broke out in a cold sweat. Faye, if we don't save him now, it'll be too late. She gave a reluctant nod. Before the medicine could reach Liam's lips, he started vomiting blood violently, his small face turning purple and contorted. Faye immediately slapped the medicine out of my hand and held Liam, sobbing uncontrollably. You did this to Liam on purpose. Lena hypocritically stepped closer, shaking the medicine in her hand. Auntie, I think Liam just has internal heat. Just give him some medicine and he'll be fine. I snapped sharply. No, with red-rimmed eyes. Faye slapped my head sideways, spittle spraying across my face. Your Chin family are all no good. For generations you couldn't produce a son. Are you jealous that our family has a precious grandson like Liam? I don't trust you. I believe in science. She tore open the package with her teeth and poured the contents into Liam's mouth. The last trace of life force dissipated completely. The bleeding from Liam's orifices stopped. In a final moment of lucidity, he opened his eyes, wrapped his arms around Faye's neck, and cried out, "Grandma," as the child woke up safely. The crowd turned on me in fury, kicking me in the back. "We should have known you were a fraud all along," Lena spat viciously in my face. "You shameless swindler, you deserve to be drowned in the pond." No sooner had she spoken than someone produced a rope from nowhere and started choking me violently. Chloe cried out in fear, "Sis, I'm scared. I don't want to die." I struggled free from the man's grip and pulled my sister toward the hill, but a sharp pain shot through my scalp as the villager violently threw me to the ground. "You bitch, how dare you run? If it weren't for Lena being college-educated, we'd have all fallen for your bluff." Faye wiped her tears and slapped me hard across the face while holding the child. The metallic taste of blood filled my mouth as Chloe's heart-wrenching pleas for mercy echoed in my ears. "Get away from me, don't touch me." I turned to see a few of the village's notorious thugs lewdly tearing at Chloe's pants. Her legs flailed wildly in the air, each sight stabbing deep into my heart. "Dare to treat a daughter of the Chin family like this, and you'll get what's coming to you." The villagers froze, halting their actions mid-motion. Lena stomped her foot on my face, grinding her soul against my mouth. She let out a triumphant sneer and delivered a vicious kick to my abdomen. I convulsed in agony, my back drenched with sweat. "So where's your God when you need saving? Still trying to scam everyone? So they'll keep voting your Chin family into the mayor's office?" A sudden jolt of realization shot through my mind. No wonder Lena kept targeting me. Her brother was running for mayor too. They only trailed the Chin family by a few votes each year. I scanned the crowd and sure enough, there was Cole, his face twisted with venom. With a mocking smirk, he ripped open Chloe's clothes right in front of me and strung her up from the rafters. The onlookers rubbed their hands together, swallowing hard with barely contained hunger. Their hands groped Chloe's body in the shadows, their eyes raking over the flesh at her waist and chest. Chloe's face flushed crimson with shame, her teeth drawing blood from her lower lip as she dared not make a sound. My heart felt like it was being roasted over an open flame. The villagers threw me into the ancestral hall, planning to drown me in the pond at the stroke of midnight. I met the statue's gaze, watching as it shed tears of blood once more. This was a sign of its raging fury. Chloe was tied to a rack outside, barely clothed and subjected to groping hands. I roared, "You'll all pay for this." In the dead of night, Lena crept into the ancestral hall with a flashlight. She stood before me and delivered a vicious kick straight to my chest. In the ghastly moonlight, I saw the hulking shadow looming over her shoulders. Lena was possessed by the most malevolent spirit of them all. "Sis." The vengeful spirit tilted its head at me, then sank its teeth viciously into Lena's face. She winced and covered her face, muttering under her breath, "My toothache's acting up again." I couldn't help but laugh. The malevolent spirit had already devoured most of her physical form, leaving only the last remnants. "Lena will be dead within days, no doubt about it." A dark figure flashed before my eyes as Cole swiftly closed in on Chloe, with a rag stuffed in her mouth. Chloe could only let out muffled cries for help. I desperately writhed, struggling to get up from the ground and charge at him to kill him. Cole frantically pulled down his pants, his hand stroking up and down. "You bastard, get the hell away from me." Lena impatiently covered my mouth, her eyes cold and menacing. "My brother taking a liking to her is a blessing she doesn't deserve in 1,000 lifetimes. Besides, your sister's virtue will be taken by someone sooner or later. Might as well use that maiden blood to celebrate my brother's promotion." In desperation, I sank my teeth into Lena's wrist, wishing I could tear a chunk of flesh from her. Howling in pain, she pummeled my head furiously while snarling like a demon, "You bitch, let go of me now." A searing pain shot through the back of my skull. Sensing something was wrong with his sister, Cole rushed to her aid. He kicked me away with brutal force, then tenderly examined Lena's wounds. The ground trembled almost imperceptibly. I knew the idol was about to unleash its wrath, and the entire village would soon become a land of death. To escape the tragic fate of my past life, I must take Chloe away from here immediately. In desperation, I shuffled on my knees toward Cole's feet. "Have you been having recurring dreams lately about a female ghost haunting you? She sleeps with you, satisfies your every desire each time, but the next day you'll pass blood in your urine." Cole froze, then grabbed my collar and yanked hard. He asked suspiciously, "Have you been spying on me?" I shook my head vigorously, only to lock eyes with the female ghost in red perched on his shoulder. A chill ran up my spine as I suppressed the fear rising inside me. "Does that female ghost have about 100 different faces?" Now it was Cole's turn to be stunned. Cole glanced at Lena, then leaned in and whispered in my ear, "How did you know?" I gave a placating smile, signaling for him to untie the rope before we talked. Lena immediately came closer, shaking her head as she held Cole's hand to dissuade him. "Bro, you can't let her go." I deliberately turned away with a displeased expression and said coldly, "Then there's nothing I can do to save That female ghost has already been intimate with you 8 times, hasn't she? Once she finds you again tonight, not even the highest celestial beings could save you." Cold sweat beaded on Cole's forehead as he frantically grabbed my hand. "All right, I'll release you." The moment Cole's fingers brushed against the knot, he suddenly glanced back at Chloe. My heart sank, but then I heard him instruct Lena, "Untie Chloe and bind her to me." He was using Chloe as leverage, afraid I'd break free. If my hands were loose, watching the malevolent spirits taking shape on Cole and Lena's shoulders, I never even considered running. If we left this unchecked, both Chloe and I would die. Cole untied me, his eyes cold and serpentine. "Now will you tell me how to break this curse?" Rubbing my sore wrist, I took off my coat and wrapped it around Chloe. Chloe clung to me in fear, her cold tears pattering down on the back of my hand. Lena yanked Chloe's ponytail hard, pulling her head back, and slapped her across the face several times, staring at my sister's swollen lip. I gripped Lena's wrist tightly and issued a low warning. "Stay away from my sister if you want your brother to live." The vicious ghost on Lena's shoulder bared its fangs at me, but I sent it cowering back with a single glare. She vented her rage by frantically tearing at Lena's flesh. Just 15 more minutes, and Lena would be dead. Cole grabbed my hand impatiently, pulling a knife from his pocket and pointing it straight at Chloe's heart. "Are you trying to fool me? If you don't tell me the solution right now, I'll kill your sister." The air grew tense with stalemate as a clamor of voices arose from the entrance of the ancestral hall. Faye held the ashen-faced Liam in her arms, tears streaming down her weathered cheeks. She kicked Lena away with brutal force, her calloused hand splitting the corner of Lena's mouth. "What kind of poison did you give my grandson? He's hanging on by a thread." Lena lowered her gaze in panic, then pointed a trembling finger at me with venom in her eyes. "It must be Dora's doing. She's afraid you won't elect her as village chief, so she's using dark magic to harm people." I silently counted down in my head. Several 7-year-old children in the crowd suddenly vomited dark blood with choking sounds and collapsed to the ground with heavy thuds. Their limbs were contorted in bizarre positions, writhing like insects crawling on the ground. Liam was wailing uncontrollably, and the others descended into panic, clutching their own children while howling in distress. "What's going on here? My child, my baby." Lena and Cole glared at me with pure venom, then drove the knife straight toward Chloe's throat. Seizing the moment, I kicked Cole square in the groin. He grimaced in agony, the knife clattering sharply to the ground. "Let her go." Amid the chaos, I swiftly snatched the blade, cut the ropes binding Chloe, and pulled her protectively against my chest. Faye knelt before me, clutching her lifeless child, and "Cowdowed, Dora, I'm begging you, please save Liam. 3, tonight." He suddenly smiled at me and said, "Thank you for that packet of medicine that set me free." Meanwhile, tears of blood streamed from Lena's eyes, and her bones began to crack and pop throughout her body. She let out a desperate, agonized scream. It hurts so much." The malevolent spirit on Lena's shoulder devoured the last shred of her flesh. An invisible hand crushed Lena's skull as I desperately tried to cover Chloe's ears. Everyone present heard the wailing of countless ghosts, blood streaming from all 7 orifices. The hour of reckoning has come. Divine retribution for wronging the Chin family's daughter is about to strike. The villagers knelt on the ground, wailing in despair, while Lena vomited blood and her limbs dissolved into bloody pulp, revealing ghastly white bones. The ground shattered, and all the young men of the village plunged into the dark fissures. Faye sobbed over her child's corpse until she lost consciousness, and Cole fainted dead away from sheer terror. The area where only Chloe and I were standing remained completely still. The villagers began to realize that Chinjianu was the true guardian of the village. They dropped the ropes in their hands and knelt down with a thud, kowtowing to me. Those who had touched Chloe were crying their eyes out, slapping themselves frantically. "We're sorry. This is all our fault. We've wronged you. Just let us live, and we'll do whatever you want." The men kowtowed frantically, blood trickling toward my feet. Seeing the man approach, Chloe screamed and cried in a panic. The ground suddenly split open, and the man plummeted straight down into the abyss, leaving only his piercing screams echoing through the air. The onlookers, seeing this, dared not approach any closer and scrambled backward on all fours. They picked up nearby bamboo skewers and viciously stabbed them through the hands that had once touched Chloe, but all of this was in vain. Wrongdoings demand retribution. Even when amends are sought, the enraged deity will not rest until the village is utterly destroyed. Lena and Cole met gruesome ends, while the village children, just 7 years old, convulsed unnaturally, bleeding from every orifice as in some past life. Yet mere days ago, these same children had been joyfully singing and playing games around me. Others may have all taken part in bullying the Chin family's daughter, but the child is truly innocent. I sighed helplessly and tore off a piece of cloth to cover Chloe's eyes. "Be a good girl. Don't look." The children's piercing screams echoed in my ears as I drew from my pocket the dagger my mother had given me before she died. I severed my right finger with a brutal chop and cast it into the fissure. The children's wailing ceased, their eyes gradually clearing of haze, smearing the blood across my forehead. I reopened my eyes to see countless spirits departing from the children's bodies. They drifted toward the young men brimming with vitality. The young adults, like zombies, picked up the rope from the ground and wrapped it around their necks, their eyes rolling back. Chloe, hearing the screams, anxiously tugged at the corner of my clothes. "Sis, I'm scared." I held her tight in my arms, whispering soothing words. "Don't worry, I won't let you die, I promise." But as I stared at the cracked earth stretching in every direction, I had no idea which way led out. Before she passed, Mother said if we ever wanted to leave the village, the ancestral hall held the only answer. The air was filled with incessant screams. A sinister ghost clung to its victim, draining their life force and growing stronger. If we don't act now, other villages will inevitably be affected. They're all innocent. Clenching my jaw, I charged into the ancestral hall with my sister in my arms. A dark mist enveloped the ancestral hall, creating a hazy barrier between it and the outside world. Chloe was bound by the dark mist, suspended in mid air. An ethereal and solemn voice echoed in my ears. "She's not a Chin by blood, so she's not under our protection." My heart dropped. Besides Mother and me, no one else knew Chloe wasn't a true Chin. Years ago, when Mother and I were gathering firewood in the mountains, we found Chloe resting in a deserted cave. After all these years, I've long considered Chloe my own blood sister. Chloe let out a piercing scream as a dark energy slashed her wrist open, causing blood to seep out. Instead of falling to the ground, the blood coalesced into a small, round bead. The villagers also began vomiting blood in a bizarre manner, the droplets floating midair and converging into a humanoid form. Suddenly, I remembered the bedtime stories my mother used to tell me when I was little. If the Chin daughter fails to be the first to offer incense on the ghost festival, the ancestors will rage and legions of spirits will break their chains. They will surely come to collect debts from past lives. The searing pain shot through my knee, as if an invisible hand were crushing the bones. I bit my cheek until it bled, forcing myself to stay conscious as I desperately scrambled toward the statue of the deity. The ancestral hall enshrines not only deities but also the memorial tablets of the Chin family's female incense keepers throughout the generations. Yet beyond these, the hall stood starkly empty. Chloe's sharp, agonized scream pierced through from outside, striking deep into my heart. My mind in utter chaos, I drew my dagger and severed my second finger. I lit 3 incense sticks, bowed reverently, and raised the severed finger above my head with both hands. I begged the deities for protection. "Please don't harm my sister. I implore you to show mercy and spare my sister." A terrifying laughter echoed through the air, and I trembled with fear from head to toe. An eerie chill crept down my spine. Tears and cold sweat streamed down as Chloe's wails continued unabated. I slammed the severed finger onto the ground, then smeared incense ash from the altar all over my body. Chloe's limbs were twisted in unnatural angles, with droplets of blood continuously floating out from her body. If this continues, she'll bleed out and die. Fighting against the eerie wind, I desperately tried to pull Chloe down from midair, but a pair of hands seized my ankle with brutal force. They glared at me with pure venom, her nails digging deep into my flesh. She cursed furiously. "This is all your fault. If you hadn't brought this dark magic upon our village, Liam would still be alive. Give Liam back to me. You owe me his life." I missed grabbing Chloe's pant leg by a hair's breadth, losing my chance to save her. "Faye, let go of me," but she tightened her grip, calling out to the panicked villagers fleeing in all directions. "Dora is nothing but a jinx. If we kill her, the village will return to its former peace. Liam will come back to life, and all the dead will return to us." The village drums sounded at the peak of the witching hour, when dark energy reigned supreme. The villagers charged at me with bloodshot eyes, like rabid beasts craving human flesh. They snatched ropes from the ground and brutally bound my neck and limbs. "Kill the witch." Excruciating pain shot through my wrists, ankles, and throat as they strained to tear me apart. I gasped for air, flailing helplessly in a feeble struggle. Staggering, Faye picked up the dagger from the ground while clutching Liam's lifeless body. A cold glint flashed as she drove the blade deep into my chest. A pained grunt escaped me as an icy chill spread through my veins. Faye caught my heart's blood in her hands, a glimmer of hope flashing in her eyes. She fed it into Liam's mouth, murmuring softly, "Drink up, my dear grandson. Once you finish, you'll be cured." A cold sweat broke out on my back. How did Faye figure out that the black bottle I gave her contained my heart's blood? But she had misunderstood. The heart's blood of the Chin family's incense maiden wasn't meant to save lives, but to nourish spirits. Once the malevolent spirit on Liam's shoulder is sated with my heart's blood, it will depart of its own accord. Blood trickled through Faye's fingers onto the fractured ground. The wailing of countless ghosts swept over us once more. A chill crept up my spine. A powerful spirit was trying to drain my blood to break the seal. The howling wind fell silent as Chloe plummeted from the sky. The ground fissures were gradually closing up. The villagers joyfully dropped their ropes and rushed toward the village entrance. Chloe crashed down right in front of me, for I scrambled toward her on all fours, my heart's blood leaving an eerie crimson trail on the ground. The moment I held Chloe, the blood began to squirm like worms, sending chills down my spine. The pattern looked hauntingly familiar, but I had no mind to dwell on it. Liam's face gradually regained color as Faye cried out in delight, "My dear grandson, you're finally waking up." But the moment she touched Liam, his skin swelled rapidly, veins grotesquely distended before bursting with a sickening pop. The air thickened with the metallic tang of blood, a crimson mist clouding my vision. I couldn't see anything, only hear Faye's piercing, agonized scream, "Oh my God, my Liam, my precious grandson." I wiped the blood from my heart onto my brow, and when I suddenly looked up at the statue, I saw it shed its fourth tear of blood. Mother once said that when the statue sheds 4 tears of blood, there was no turning back now. A chill crept up my spine as I heard a frost-laced sigh. "My lady, I've been waiting for you." A pallid hand tightened around my waist as an unfamiliar face suddenly drew near. I was too terrified to breathe. He had long, jet-black hair, and a smear of vivid blood still stained the corner of his lips. Faye was still hurling curses, damning me to a miserable death, but the next second, the man spoke, his voice thick with annoyance. Faye's head was brutally twisted off. Chloe heard the sickening crack of bone and gasped, her breath catching in her throat. I stumbled backward in panic, clutching her tightly, yet the man gazed at me gently, taking my hand and lifting me from the ground, mistaking his intentions as hostile. Chloe viciously sank her teeth into the man's arm, his brow furrowed in displeasure, fingers twitching slightly, but I caught his hand in time, icy cold, cold as ancient glacier ice. My bewildered gaze met his, searching for answers in their depths. The man gave a faint smile, bending to press his palm against my heart. A flicker of pity crossed his eyes as he scanned the fleeing villagers like they were mere insects. "Did they hurt you?" Before I could even answer, the man raised his hand slightly. Several people in the distance exploded into a bloody mist that hung in the air. The remaining vengeful spirits bared their fangs and pounced, devouring every last scrap of the remains. "This man before me is someone I can't afford to cross." I tightened my grip on Chloe's hand and, seizing the moment while the man was crushing his victims like toys, made a desperate dash for the ancestral hall. "Chloe is not a daughter of the Chin family." I dug my fingers into the wound on my chest and smeared the blood onto Chloe's exposed skin. With no scissors, I gritted my teeth and tore out a lock of my hair, pressing it into her palm. "Chloe, stay with me. At least malevolent spirits couldn't enter the ancestral hall. No man is allowed to enter the ancestral hall." Dizzy from blood loss, I stumbled over the threshold of the ancestral hall. My hand hit the ground hard, and the bracelet my mother left me shattered instantly. It was the only keepsake I had from my mother. Ignoring the pain racking my body, I crawled toward the altar and desperately groped beneath it. Chloe cowered in the corner, screaming in terror, "Stay away, don't kill me, sis, help me." She stared into empty space, babbling nonsense as her body trembled like a leaf. I staggered to my feet, accidentally hitting my forehead against the altar table. The ancestral tablets of past incense maidens began shaking violently, clattering to the ground. Mother's tablet split clean in two. A flash of white light pierced through my forehead. A transparent barrier separated me from the outside world. Mother's figure appeared before my eyes. She lovingly drew me into her embrace, her eyes glistening with tears. "Dora." I desperately tried to hold my mother tight, but my hands passed right through her body without any resistance. Chloe's agonizing scream still echoed in my ears. My mother looked at me with heartache in her eyes, gently stroking my face. She took a jade pendant from around her neck and hung it on mine. The jade felt smooth and warm, engraved with the elegant name Herman. "Dora, this is the fate of the Chin family women. You've never met your father, have you? That's because he serves as an underworld official. For a millennium, our Chin family has carried the duty of protecting this village. Every child born here, every soul living in this place, was a vile sinner in their past life. The underworld cast them into this existence to endure worldly suffering and learn to become decent human beings again." Clutching the jade pendant, my pent-up anguish and rage finally erupted. "Mama, they almost killed me, almost hurt Chloe, but Mama just stroked my hair with a heartbroken tenderness." Her tears fell on the back of my hand, burning faintly. "I never liked Chin Village, much less wanted to stay bound to it. My mother didn't die of natural causes. She was sacrificed by the villagers. When I was 5 years old, a severe drought struck, and not a drop of rain fell for 6 whole months. The crops failed completely. Every month, my mother would perform rituals to pray for rain, begging the heavens for mercy, yet never once did I hear Mother's call from the heavens. Many starved to death, bringing us to the brink of resorting to exchanging children for food. Suddenly someone suggested that ever since the Chin women began guarding the village for generations, no natural or man-made disasters had ever occurred. It must be that Mother committed some heinous act against heaven and earth. They ignored Mother's pleas and brutally nailed her to the wooden frame. I still remember clearly how much blood Mother shed that day. Every villager stabbed her while chanting under their breath, "Heavenly Lord, we have punished this wicked woman on your behalf. I beg you, send down the life-giving rain." I screamed and pleaded with all my might for them to spare Mother, but they kicked me into the ditch. My right leg was left permanently disabled. They tied Mother to a wooden frame, exposed to the scorching sun and biting wind until she became severely dehydrated. Her body shriveled like a desiccated corpse. She fought back, insisting the drought had nothing to do with her. She begged the villagers to spare her life so she could watch me grow up, but they just kept shaking their heads, saying the punishment wasn't severe enough. The heavens remained unappeased. They sliced our Mother's flesh piece by piece and threw it into the scalding, boiling water. They crushed her white bones and cast them into the cesspit. Finally, at the critical moment when the villagers were about to strangle Chloe and me, the heavens rained down blood. Through my newly awakened third eye, I caught the familiar scent lingering in the air. "I think I see you, Father." Father wept over Mother's fading spirit as he sealed the vilest demons beneath our village. This was the life-saving talisman he gave me. Once this soil is stained with my blood, the vengeful spirit will break free from its seal and devour the entire village. With tears streaming down her face, Mother gently kissed my forehead one last time, her voice caught in her throat. "Dora, I won't let you carry the burden of being a Chin family woman anymore. I don't want you to follow in your mother's footsteps. These villagers are the real soul-devouring demons. They can never be redeemed. That's why your father arranged your marriage from the day you were born. Herman will keep you safe for the rest of your life." Tears gushed out uncontrollably. I tried to grab Mother's hand, but she dissolved into white mist and faded from my sight. "5, Mother, don't leave me." I snapped out of the vision abruptly as a wooden club came crashing down on my shoulder. Chloe was bound with ropes and unable to move. Several men with bloodied heads and menacing glares stared at me like wolves ready to pounce and tear me apart. The ancestral hall and tablets had collapsed at some point, leaving complete chaos. They viciously pressed a blunt knife against Chloe's neck. "If you don't find a way to save us, we'll take your sister with us to the grave. We've got nothing left to lose. At least we won't be lonely in the underworld." Tears streaming down her face, Chloe sank her teeth viciously into the man's hand. She screamed at me, "Run, sis, get out of here. Don't worry about me." Every time we were in danger, she'd always tell me to run. The man slapped her hard across the face and started tearing at her clothes. She was screaming and shrieking, while I roared back with bloodshot eyes, "Herman, help me." The man swiftly appeared by my side and gently took my hand. "How may I assist you, madam?" The villagers, who had never seen a ghost with their own eyes, were instantly terrified out of their wits by Herman. They released Chloe, shoving her forward forcefully as they fled for cover. Chloe didn't even have time to cry for help before plummeting straight into the chasm before her. A chilling wind swept by as Herman raised his finger. The unconscious Chloe levitated into the air, her lips turning black and her suddenly opened eyes revealing pale, milky pupils. She was possessed by a malevolent spirit. Eerie runes materialized behind Chloe, and droplets of blood began converging around her once again. My heart clenched with dread, my brow furrowed in deep concern. Herman covered my eyes and whispered, "Don't look, it's filthy." He raised his hand and made a gentle pinching motion in the air. A massive black mist erupted from Chloe's back, slowly taking shape. I stared at Herman in disbelief, astonished that he could directly exorcise the vengeful spirit. The fleeing villagers saw this and sped away as if their feet were greased. Herman scoffed dismissively and set Chloe down on the ground beside him. He lifted his gaze to meet mine, his tone flat and detached. "Madam, her heart meridians are severely damaged. She might not survive. This is just the beginning." Instinctively, I tightened my grip on his wrist. "Whatever it takes, I beg you to save her." Herman's icy fingers brushed against my cheek as he asked tentatively, "Even if it means descending into the underworld with me?" "What's so frightening about the underworld? It's better than dealing with the filth in people's hearts." A wisp of white light emanated from his fingertip. Pressing my lips tightly, I grasped his hand and pleaded, "Let's erase her memories from these years too. They're just too painful. Chloe is so innocent and sweet. These things could haunt her for life." Herman seemed to read my thoughts. Giving a slight nod, he conjured a contract out of thin air. "If I sign this contract, I'll share magical power with Herman and transcend my mortal form." I sneered at the man running toward the hilltop and signed my name without hesitation. A chill spread through my body, my bones aching with sharp pain. I clenched my teeth, but still tasted metallic blood in my throat. A hand supported my back as a gentler energy flowed through my meridians. Moments later, my eyes snapped open and I pushed off the ground with a light tap of my toes. The villagers panicked upon seeing me give chase, screaming in terror. Several lost their footing and plunged into the bottomless chasm. I commanded the malevolent spirits in the air, ordering them to tear apart the souls of the men before me. Filthy creatures like you don't deserve to exist in this world. I opened my palm and summoned. The legion of ghosts suppressed beneath the village. Countless dark mists shattered the seals and enveloped the village. They mercilessly devour the vitality of the living, leaving them in a state worse than death. Yet these agonies are utterly insignificant to the generations of Qin family incense maidens. Qin village transformed into a living hell, reduced to ruins. Herman produced a ledger of life and death from somewhere, consigning the departed souls to the underworld. These scumbags should have suffered excruciating agony long ago. Those who've never felt pain will never change their ways. Herman and I guided countless malevolent spirits into the underworld, where they were refined and ultimately obliterated from existence. After cleaning up the aftermath, I accompanied Chloe into the city, learning from my past life's mistakes. I pulled some strings right after my rebirth to secure Chloe a spot at a boarding school in the city. For Chloe, getting an education and building a bright future is the right path. She's very independent and can thrive just fine without me. I've arranged with the bank to transfer $2,000 from my account to her each month. This is all I can do. After settling everything, Herman held my hand tightly, playing with my fingers like a child with a new favorite toy. He insisted on staying glued to my side all day. Herman and I returned to the underworld to oversee the register of the dead and govern countless spirits. For me, this is the best possible ending. Story 2. After learning of my sister's death, my gentle mermaid orc lover took his own life in her study. Through tear-blurred eyes, I gathered his remains, only to discover a jade pendant he'd kept until his final breath. Its reverse bore the inscription, "To my beloved Dahlia." The truth struck like thunder. His heart had always belonged to her. When I regained consciousness from my heart condition, I found myself transported back to the day my sister and I were choosing beast folk companions. This time, I bypassed the mermaids and went straight for the nine-tailed white fox in the corner, now missing 8 of its tails. Watching my sister proudly show off her newly acquired mermaid beast folk, I simply smiled. Since you're so fond of him, little sister, may your love be mutual and your bond everlasting. Sister, could you let me pick the orcs first today, just like in our past life? My younger sister put on that pitiful expression again. You've always been the clever one, sister. But before she could finish, mother and father immediately fixed stern gazes on me. Belle, can't you give way to your younger sister? In my past life, I resented how my parents favored my sister Dahlia and immediately retorted, as the eldest daughter, the first choice should be mine, and so, I effortlessly obtained the mermaid beastman I had long desired. But because of my refusal to yield, my sister shockingly gave up her chance to select a beastman altogether. My parents blamed me for robbing my sister of her reproductive abilities and demanded I atone for this sin, or face banishment from the family. One, left with no choice, I had to reluctantly agree. To make it up to my sister, I never shared a bed with the merman beastkin, even sending him to stay with her as company. But then my sister fell for a black wolf beastkin, quickly switched affections, abandoned the merman, and decided to bond with the dark pod wolf instead. On the wedding day, I happily brought the merman beastkin home and attended my sister's ceremony to offer blessings. Little did I expect that when night fell and all was quiet, my merman companion had vanished. By the time I found him, he had already drawn his last breath. To my horror, my beloved merman lay lifeless in my sister's study. Only then did I notice the study walls were covered with portraits of my sister, all painted by my merman, Eli. He died by poison, clutching a jade pendant in his hand. Engraved upon it were the words, "To my beloved Dahlia." Only then did I realize Eli's coldness toward me. His heart belonged to another. No wonder he seemed so despondent when I brought him home after my sister's wedding. His blue eyes drained of all light. I thought he'd just escaped misery and needed time to recover. Little did I know, he'd fallen for my sister. The despair of seeing her wed to another orc drove him to take his own life. When the truth came out, my heart shattered into pieces. Waking from unconsciousness to see my sister begging to choose an orc first, that's when I knew I'd been reborn. Our family of 4 now stood before a cage. Inside were numerous beast folk, some with tails, others with muscular builds yet animal ears, among them the mermaid Eli. Belle, won't you yield to your sister? Are you truly so determined to drive her to despair? As mother prepared to continue, I interjected, how could I? Though as eldest daughter I'm entitled to first choice of beast folk by clan law. I've always heeded father and mother's teachings about sisterly harmony. Such peerless beauty as this mermaid's naturally belongs to my younger sister. Little Dahlia clearly didn't expect me to agree so readily to her request. Though delighted, she eyed me with lingering suspicion, her piercing gaze demanding truth as she questioned me. With a tender smile, I gestured toward Eli in the cage. Sister, I swear by the beast god, This merman shall be yours forever. In our world, when a woman comes of age, each of us is granted a unique ability to form a soul bond with our chosen orc, who then becomes our lifelong partner. Once bonded, the orc and I share not just our lifespans, but every aspect of our existence. We become bound in glory and disgrace alike, inseparable for eternity. Oaths are the most absolute law in our world. Those who break their vows face divine lightning strikes until nothing but ashes remain. What caught me off guard was the moment those words left my lips. The mermaid beastman Eli instantly rose from his cage. Just like in our past life, he possessed not only the most magnificent tail in the world, but also beauty that could topple kingdoms. But this time, unlike our first encounter where he remained silent and ignored us completely, his piercing gaze locked onto me with unsettling intensity. Though puzzled, I quickly averted my eyes to prevent my sister from suspecting any lingering attachment to the mermaid beastman. Then why don't you pick the orc that suits you best, sis? Though she appeared gracious, she immediately positioned herself before Eli, deliberately blocking the mermaid's line of sight to assert dominance. Father beamed with joy, nodding approvingly at his beloved youngest daughter's unexpected display of humility. Then he abruptly turned to me with undisguised impatience in his eyes. Belle, look how much your sister cares for you. Why aren't you just picking one already? Mother gave me a shove from behind. Go already. Were those vows you just made all lies? I'd anticipated this moment, before Mother could even rest her hand on my shoulder. I stepped forward. I want that little fox. The beast folk in the cages erupted like a boiling pot, while the three outsiders exchanged puzzled glances. Don't you know that nine-tailed fox only has one tail left? I couldn't care less. No worries. With proper care, the tails will grow back. With that, I stepped forward and signaled the guard to open the cage, cradling the little fox in my arms before walking off without another word. Inside the cage, Eli clutched the bars. The moment my words reached him, the sudden loud noise startled the younger sister standing nearby too. Despite Dahlia's petite and adorable appearance, she's actually ruthless and vicious. Startled by the commotion, she let out a shriek, her beautiful face instantly paling with shock as fury overtook her. Without hesitation, she whipped out a coiled lash and sent it cracking through the air. What the hell are you doing? Do you have a death wish scaring me like that? I hesitated for a brief moment, but never stopped walking, nor turned back. In my past life, I fell for him at first sight, even defied my biased parents to make this beastman my husband. Yet who could have imagined? I gave him my all, respected his refusal to share my bed, even showered him with gifts whenever he returned from visiting my sister, all to keep him happy. Though he never showed me a single kind look, I loved her with all my heart. Little did I know, his resentment toward me stemmed entirely from my insistence on binding us together. So this time, I chose to let go. The little fox in my arms seemed to sense my shifting emotions. Lifting its head to gaze at me, I reached out and patted his head. Don't be afraid, I'll take good care of you. But he immediately pulled his head away from my hand, completely ignoring me, leaving me both amused and exasperated. There's actually a reason why I chose him in my past life, because I chose the mermaid beastman. My younger sister couldn't find a suitable beastman companion. The other beastfolk in the cage were all sent to the adult daughters of the He family's branch households. I remember a nine-tailed white fox being the last pick, scorned by all for having just a single tail at the time, but after bonding with an overlipped concubine's daughter and receiving tender care, his exceptional talents soon restored all 9 tails. Together they rose to become one of our clan's most prominent figures. Eventually he even entered the succession battle for the He family leadership, ultimately claiming the position of the new patriarch. It wasn't until later that I realized the seemingly useless little fox was not just a 9-tailed white fox, but actually a descendant of the legendary Qingqiu divine fox. With his divine lineage, formidable combat skills, and unfathomable strategic genius, it was only natural he wouldn't remain suppressed forever. On our way home, the 9-tailed fox finally took human form, though visibly weakened as he sat in the carriage. His eyes still burned with ferocity. I kept thinking about the wound on his tail and wanted to examine it. To my surprise, before my hand could even touch his tail, he bared his sharp claws. I'm no fool. I'd already pulled my hand back before he could strike. Tisk, such a temper. You're not cute at all, are you? My family, the He clan, is the main lineage. We own a grand estate here in the capital. When my sister and I came of age, we were each granted our own estates, born with a congenital heart condition. Even my exceptional talents couldn't alter my fate of an early demise. 3. Naturally, our parents favored accomplished children, showing indifference toward a useless child like me, while showering all their affection on Dahlia despite her modest talents. So when the time came for us to establish separate households, I was the only one who truly left home. My younger sister was kept at the main household by our parents. By rights, as the firstborn daughter, I should be the primary heir to the family leadership, but the current head of the family, my father Talon, dislikes me, though everyone knows the proper succession. They've tacitly avoided mentioning it. Some even assume my sister will inherit the position instead. But what happened next? My sister never became the true head of the He family. That honor went to a distant cousin who obtained the nine-tailed white fox, making her the new matriarch. With the white fox's guidance, she rapidly matured and eventually led the He family to even greater heights. As for my sister, always chasing the next shiny thing, her infatuation with the merman Eli was just a passing fancy. The moment she met that brawny black werewolf, poor Eli was forgotten. After realizing I'd been reborn, I immediately secluded myself in the study to chart my future course. Nevertheless, I ordered the servants to unchain the nine-tailed fox, and specifically arranged for healers to help restore his tails. To my surprise, my personal guard reported the next afternoon that Baron, the nine-tailed fox, refused to eat or even communicate, rejecting all treatment. In this world, beastfolk are inherently considered inferior beings. The fortunate ones sent to noble houses like ours may be chosen as consorts, gaining not just freedom but a brilliant future. Those not selected must return to orc tribes as permanent slaves, with no hope of changing their fate. I've long known some orcs are prideful by nature. They'll claim human partners through bonding rituals and take them away, but such cases remain rare in human society. We'll stop at nothing to bring any defiant orcs to their knees before us. Just like our father, though he appears strong, it's actually my mother who holds the real power of life and death in our household. He refuses to eat or speak, the guard reported in, and I pressed for details about the white fox's condition. Yes, my lord, I'm truly at my wit's end and must seek your counsel on how to deal with this orc. After a moment's thought, I rose and had the guards escort me to the nine-tailed white fox's chamber. I entered holding a letter in my hand. These were the intelligence reports I'd ordered the guards to gather. After careful examination, a smile finally crossed my face as I strode toward Baron. I know you never wanted to form a pact with humans. Your human mother never loved you to begin with. She was forced into marriage by your father, and the abuse began the moment you were born. Your father had long since moved on, infatuated with other human women. Losing all patience with your mother, she blamed you for everything, even snapped off all 8 of your tails herself before delivering you to us. In just 4 sentences, I laid bare Baron's entire backstory. Only then did he deign to look at me. Though his eyes remained guarded, I had to admit, even disheveled and bound motionless to the bed, he still carried an undeniable allure. It was that peculiar charm unique to fox beastmen. Yet unlike others, his carried an innate nobility so striking it left me speechless. We locked eyes for a long moment before I finally heard his first words. What exactly do you want from me? To make you my husband, grant you freedom, and help me become the head of the He family. Why should I? Because I promise you this, once we're bound by oath and you've regained your 9 tails, I'll help you get your revenge. For real, I nodded. I swear by the beast god. May the most vile curses befall me if I break this oath. Baron's eyes widened. He likely never expected me, unlike other humans, to show hostility. Instead, I'd extended genuine goodwill. After a long silence, he finally spoke. Very well, we forged the pact. My bonding ceremony with Baron was rather modest. I invited my family, but my parents claimed they were too busy to attend. My younger sister merely sent a verbal blessing through a messenger and never showed up in person. I later learned from the guards that the merman warrior Eli, whom she personally chose, refused to cooperate. He adamantly rejected bonding with her, for she's been venting her frustrations to our parents. Consumed by resentment while envying my successful bonding, my parents naturally asked me not to flaunt my achievements openly, just to spare my sister's feelings. Though my people seemed somewhat displeased, I couldn't care less about such hollow pleasantries. On the day of the covenant ceremony, I personally presented Baron with a sword I forged named Royal Hue, symbolizing regal dominance and peerless magnificence. When Baron received the blade, his face lit up with astonishment. He gripped the hilt tightly, eyes sparkling with delight and reverence. Thank you. Hearing his voice, I waved my hand dismissively. This is what my husband rightfully deserves. The next moment, I took his hand and together we bowed to the beast deity. But just as we were preparing for the bonding ceremony, the guards informed me that a mermaid beastkin was requesting an audience at my estate. I replied firmly, not seeing anyone. The guard looked uneasy. He claims to be delivering gifts on the second young Miss's behalf. I chuckled coldly. You actually believe my sister would congratulate me on this bonding ceremony? The guard, Roy, knew full well about the bad blood between me and Dahlia. Frankly, the whole situation struck him as absurd. Upon hearing my decision, he immediately bowed and said, "Then this subordinate shall drive them away." With a nod of approval, I took the sharp bone knife and carved a cross into my right wrist, then made an identical incision on Baron's right hand. As our blood welled forth, we pressed our wounds together, thus did two bloodlines merge as we sealed our covenant, but unexpectedly, at that very moment, the beast god's statue erupted in radiant light, enveloping both Baron and me. I felt a peculiar energy surge through my veins. While Baron across from me stared in shock at something behind him, he'd actually grown a tail, suppressing his astonishment. He locked eyes with me. In that shared gaze, we realized our covenant had received the beast god's blessing. This means we're each other's perfect mates, blessed by the beast god's decree. It seems we're destined to be bonded. I beamed at Baron, who returned a knowing smile as if he'd already agreed with me. After the bonding ceremony concluded, we entered our new home together. The bonding ceremony of human women is equivalent to our wedding. The couple would then consummate their union, but I knew Baron was different from other orcs, so as we entered the bedroom, I asked for his consent. Would you complete this final step with me? Perhaps I was too blunt. Baron's face flushed crimson as he sat on the edge of the bed, refusing to meet my gaze. His downcast eyes and clenched fists made me reconsider my words. Don't worry, I'm not insisting on consummating our marriage, if you're unwilling. It makes no difference to me, Belle. Do you despise me? My thoughts were interrupted as I looked up to see Baron, his eyes actually glistening with unshed tears. 5. I'm not, if not, why refuse the wedding night? Isn't this me showing you respect? Baron remained silent as the bridal chamber's atmosphere froze. To break the awkwardness, I hastily added, I do want to consummate our marriage, but are you even capable? At those words, Baron grabbed my sleeve abruptly. What did you say? His gritted teeth made him look positively insulted. Only then did I realize his misunderstanding and hurried to explain. No, I mean, to my shock, the sly fox pinned me beneath the blanket the very next second. It wasn't until the next morning when the sun was blazing high that I finally stirred awake. By then, I realized Baron had long since disappeared. The usual tranquility of my courtyard was broken by a youth in white, brandishing a gleaming sword with practiced ease. His unrestrained grace made for a sight that even the dahlias would envy. As I emerged, Baron's swordplay grew more intense, as if to put on a dazzling display, only to have the perfect moment shattered by an uninvited guest. Sister, congratulations on your successful bonding ceremony. My younger sister Dahlia had appeared beside me without warning. She stood at a distance, her venomous glare fixed on me, a stark contrast to the sweet words she'd just spoken. How wonderful for you, sister. To think your chosen beastkin not only received the beast god's blessing but even cured your heart condition. I pretended not to catch her underlying meaning and simply approached cheerfully, taking her hand in mine. Dahlia, thank you for your congratulations. I always knew our sisterly bond was special, but truly, if even I could earn the beast god's favor, you certainly will too. Dahlia clearly hadn't anticipated this response, her composure faltering. Sister, will I also receive the beast god's blessing after forming my bond? She put on an expectant facade, but her eyes burned with undisguised loathing toward me. I pretended not to notice, nor did I acknowledge the parents. She deliberately steered my way. With the doting affection of an elder sister, she gently patted the younger girl's head. Bowing her head, she whispered into the girl's ear, if the beast folk refuse the blood pact, we'll resort to alternative measures. You've always been clever, sister, surely you know what must be done. Isn't this going too far? Her words said one thing, but the calculating glint in her eyes told me she'd already made up her mind. With a sigh, I said, well, little sister, just try a bit harder. I'm sure you'll succeed in forming the contract, won't you? Before she could say another word, I quickly added, if you succeed in the contract, I'll nominate you as the next family head candidate. Do you mean what you say? Before my younger sister could say anything, our parents rushed out eagerly and stood before me, beaming with joy. Father's face lit up with a smile. I knew you'd come to your senses, stepping down from the candidacy early will allow your sister to lead our family to greater heights sooner. Exactly. Watching mother chime in agreement, I remained silent. My little sister ran proudly into their arms, then turned to flash me a triumphant smirk. I knew it. Mom and Dad loved Dahlia the most. With that, they completely ignored us and left our house in high spirits, saying they couldn't wait to share this wonderful news with the clan. Lost in thought, I dismissed the matter and ordered guard Roy, pack our belongings. I'm taking Baron to Phoenix Spring Manor. Understood. As Roy withdrew, Baron turned to me with a conflicted expression. I thought you were vying for the family head position. Why did you just 6? I chuckled. Baron, don't you understand? Some things are destined to be mine. Dahlia could never claim them, unless I choose to let her have them, I added casually, or unless I simply can't be bothered with them. With that, I deliberately glanced toward a figure in red robes at the corner, only to see its owner vanish in an instant. I averted my gaze, took Baron's hand, and stepped out of the house. After being entangled with Eli for a lifetime in my past life, how could I not recognize him? Now I'm certain he's truly been reborn. But so what, if he never loved me and only has eyes for my sister Dahlia? Then I'll let them be, though Baron has regrown one tail. Truth be told, his injuries haven't fully healed yet. The real reason I suggested coming to Phoenix Spring Manor was because the legendary healer Ruashue resides here. If we could get him to treat Baron, the recovery would likely be swift. But unexpectedly, before I'd even spent 3 days here, delivered a message saying my sister had attempted suicide and demanded my immediate return to atone. I smiled at the approaching guard. Since my sister's the one throwing a suicide tantrum, why should I be the one apologizing? This guard was my father's right-hand man. He knew exactly how things stood, and that I was the neglected legitimate daughter. He answered my challenge with undisguised contempt. The family head said it was you, young miss, who claimed Lady Dahlia would surely receive the beast god's blessing. I chuckled. So what if I did? The guard grumbled resentfully, but when the second young lady formed her bond, there wasn't any blessing at all. I stepped up to the guard, staring coldly into his eyes. Then did your beloved Lady Dahlia even complete the bonding ceremony? The guard fell silent, offering no reply. I sneered. No bond means no divine beast's blessing. Why should I atone for anything? Get out of my sight. I had the guards thrown out of the manor, and sent a message to my father. I've relinquished my position as family head and voluntarily withdrawn from the He household. All family resources and authority shall be transferred to second young miss. I begged the patriarch's approval. True enough, I began living a life of comfort thereafter. Baron and I grew increasingly close. We traveled through scenic landscapes while I treated his ailments along the way. In less than 3 months, he'd grown 4 tails. We finally embarked on our journey home and returned to the capital. As we passed tea houses and taverns, we overheard people gossiping about how the He family patriarch had defied all opposition to name the second young mistress as the future head of the He household. Rumor had it she'd successfully formed a bond with her merman beast kin Eli, receiving the beast god's blessing. They say Eli carries the bloodline of the Sea King, descended from divine ancestors. Did you know about this all along? Baron, being sharp-witted, quickly sensed something amiss from the information he'd gathered. I smiled at him. The beast god's blessing is actually an inheritance carried through bloodlines. Didn't you regain a tail that day precisely because you received the white fox of Qingqiu's legacy? Baron studied me with a scrutinizing gaze. You chose me because you knew I'm a descendant of the white fox of Qingqiu. I chuckled. No, shaking my head as I clasped his restless hand in mine. I fell for Baron. It just so happens he's a divine beast's descendant. I nodded as the wind swept past our carriage. We turned in unison and saw 2 familiar faces in the carriage across from us. It seemed they'd overheard my final remark. 7. Dahlia still wore that resentful expression, while Eli beside her turned deathly pale at my words. I wondered, was that regret I saw in him? But what does this have to do with me? It wasn't until I returned to my estate that Guard Roy informed me the household had been in constant turmoil during my absence. First came my parents and younger sister, followed by various clan elders. I knew in my heart they were all concerned about the future clan leadership, but I felt no urgency to meet with them. It wasn't until the next day that I changed into moon-white robes and went to the He residence with Baron, who was also dressed in white. Greetings, family head and madam. We bowed in unison, neither of us wearing the slightest smile. My younger sister had arrived earlier. Hearing my words, she looked utterly aggrieved. Elder sister addressing father and mother so formally. Are you regretting yielding the family leadership to me? Talon's expression darkened instantly. He glared at me with displeasure. If you volunteered to concede, why the regret now? I smiled at him. Master, haven't you already signed the contract with me? I'm here today to fulfill our agreement. At these words, his face immediately soured. Even the usually proud Dora, his mother, wore a troubled expression. What nonsense are you spouting? Get out of my sight. But the clan chief and several revered elders who had been standing nearby noticed something amiss. Belle, what kind of contract are you holding? Show it to me. Before I could refuse, Talon rushed toward me, not even attempting to stop the chief. The moment he laid eyes on the contract, his expression changed dramatically. Bastard, how dare you banish Maya's bloodline from the He family? Though Talon held the position of family head with apparent authority, the true power in the He family still rested with the clan patriarch. Hearing the patriarch's furious interrogation, Talon's composure instantly crumbled into visible panic. He dropped to his knees under the clan leader's accusatory gaze. Elder, Belle relinquished the family leadership of her own accord. That's right, my sister stepped down voluntarily. The clan leader sneered at Dahlia, who had just spoken up. Don't think Talon and his wife's favoritism toward you fools me. Your talent pales in comparison to Belle's. It's like night and day. Talon, this contract is void, and let me make this clear, the future leadership of the He family belongs to Belle and no one else. As the family head, do I not have the authority to decide who inherits the He family's leadership? Talon raised his head in displeasure, but the clan leader met his gaze with undisguised contempt. It was Zeke, Belle's birth father, and her mother Maya who sacrificed themselves in the beast-tide to save both of you. On his deathbed, Zeke passed the family leadership to you, and you swore an oath to eventually transfer it to Belle. 18 years have passed. Has your ambition grown so large that you've lost all conscience? My face remained stoic at this revelation, but inside I was utterly devastated. In my past life, I only learned this truth when my heart condition flared up. That's when I finally understood. It wasn't that I refused to yield to my sister, nor that our parents favored their youngest. The truth was, I'd never been their biological child to begin with. That's why they treated me this way. Even when my heart condition flared up, they cast me aside and sent me to my death, all just to secure Dahlia's position as family head. They schemed for that damn title I never wanted. This time, I won't let this family steal what's rightfully mine. No, you're mistaken. I am the rightful heir to the family. Dahlia couldn't accept the verdict. Dragging the silent Eli forward, she declared, my husband descends from the Sea King's bloodline. With his help, the whole family will rise to greater heights. To everyone's shock, the clan chief sneered, don't you know your orc husband has been banished by the Sea King? Dahlia had always prided herself on having an orc like Eli. Completely unaware of his true identity, upon hearing this, she immediately released Eli's hand and glared at him with venomous fury. Is what the chief said true? Eli finally looked up, his face filled with despair as he met my gaze. It's true. Staggered by the devastating blow, Dahlia took several steps back before snapping out of it. She lunged at Eli and, smack, her palm struck his cheek. He remained rooted in place, gazing at me with wounded eyes. I pretended not to notice, but Baron abruptly stepped between us. He glared at Eli with menacing intensity, his eyes sharp and predatory. I smiled softly and reassured him, don't worry, you're the only one I'll ever love. Only then did he relax. Turning to me with a smile, he brushed a kiss against the corner of my lips, murmuring, I knew it, I'm Belle's one true love. Those words seemed to provoke Eli nearby, who came charging over, only to be intercepted by Dahlia. You like my sister? Eli nodded. Yes, I love her. Dahlia's voice turned spectral, like a fallen spirit, but you're my orc. Do you really think she'd want an outcast like you? Eli's expression darkened as he stood frozen in place. Witnessing this, the clan elder sighed deeply before finally addressing the crowd, announcing news that the other three would find unacceptable. Talon, head of the He family, has selfishly disregarded past favors by revoking Belle's heir status. Having proven unfit for leadership, he is hereby stripped of his position. Effective immediately, Belle shall assume rightful authority as the new head of the He family. With those words, he tore up the contract I'd signed with Talon and strode out of the hall. I ascended to the elevated position as the assembled crowd knelt in unison. We greet the family head. Only Talon, Dora, and the distant Dahlia glared at me with venomous eyes, as if they wished to devour me whole. Pretending not to notice, I said, rise, I shan't reside here, henceforth. The He family's ancestral manor shall be my current residence, as you command. After the dust settled, I took over all affairs of the Ho family. I dismissed all Talon members and replaced them with more capable confidants. Soon enough, the Ho family underwent a complete transformation. In my past life, I'd already recognized Baron's exceptional talent. In this lifetime, I quickly entrusted him with significant responsibilities, having him assist me in managing the Ho family affairs. Thus, he was renamed Ho Baron, formally recognized by the Ho clan as the husband of Belle, the 36th generation matriarch recorded in the Ho family genealogy. Ho Baron. That night, he was exceptionally joyful, lingering intimately with me for hours while whispering countless declarations of love. I too was utterly delighted, indulging his playful antics late into the night. Come morning, I awoke to find him gone. Baron's voice came from outside the room. My heart sank as I opened the door to find a crowd gathered outside. Leading them was my dear sister and her father, Talon. Greetings, family head. It's been too long, sister. I came to visit, but this white fox actually dared to bar my entry. Dahlia appeared to hold me in high regard, yet her words crossed every line of propriety, as if she fancied herself the rightful heir of the Ho family. I stepped forward, drew my sword, and slit the throat of the guard, pinning Baron down. Dahlia shrieked, How dare you kill my personal guard? Belle, you've got some nerve, I snapped. How dare you address the family head by name and show such Disrespect to Lord Bell. Talon couldn't bear to see his daughter wronged, but the moment our eyes met, he recoiled in fear. I smirked at the pair. Consider this guard's punishment as your warning, Dahlia and Talon. Next time, I won't hold back. Seeing the truth in my words, their faces darkened further, but Talon was no fool. He knew picking a fight with me now would gain him nothing. In an instant, his expression shifted. He flicked his sleeves, brushed them with feigned nonchalance, and offered me a smile dripping with malice. With a gesture, he dismissed the guards behind him before saying, Belle, your father merely came to visit, and to reunite you with your husband Baron's parents for a proper family gathering. What? Baron flew into a rage upon hearing this. Say that again. Who did you bring here? Tinya remained unfazed by Baron's threat, smiling as he revealed the two figures behind him. Only then did we see the two individuals approaching slowly from behind him, both bearing some resemblance to Baron. So that's why Talon had been lying low lately. He must have been saving his mischief for today. Baron, where are your manners? Aren't you going to greet us properly? And who might you be? Baron's expression twisted in utter disgust, refusing to even look at the two. I instinctively shielded him behind me. State your business, strangers. The middle-aged man opposite sneered. Brother Talon, seems this new family head still can't hold a candle to you. Look at this. He didn't even recognize me. The nine-tailed fox king, I chuckled. 9 tails? Do you actually have 9 tails? How dare you claim to be a king? The woman beside him lunged forward at my words, but the middle-aged man stopped her. How insolent. You dare disrespect me, Vance. Seems you've got a death wish. The nine-tailed fox king, are you kidding me? Everyone knows the nine-tailed fox clan has long declined. The fox king doesn't even have 9 tails anymore, just 5 now. Looks like you're the one with a death wish. Little brat, do you even realize what you're saying? With a sinister expression, Vance produced a command token and bellowed, Where are my 9-tailed kin? In an instant, my courtyard swarmed with fox people bearing blades, their predatory gazes fixed on me, awaiting only their king's order to strike. I chuckled. Now that the audience has assembled, Baron, why don't you take the throne? Baron pulled me into an embrace. I don't want that ridiculous 9-tailed king title. Sounds like a bad joke. I gazed at him fondly and whispered coaxingly, Be good, or we won't be able to take out these 2 idiots. He reluctantly let go, but still kissed my cheek before pulling away. Vance's expression darkened. Belle, what are you saying? I sneered. I said you're going to die. You're the one who's going to die. Talon threatened me. Belle, I suggest you hand over the family leadership to me immediately, otherwise, you might not live to see tomorrow, and the He family will be ruined by your hands. You're actually proud of betraying your own kin. I looked at him and ordered Roy beside me, Take Talon down. Roy, obey your orders. In a flash, he seized Talon and pinned him to the ground. Without her support, Dahlia panicked. Belle, how dare you lay hands on your own father? My father is Zeke. What does Talon have to do with me? Dahlia was left speechless, standing frozen with clenched fists. Baron finally stepped forward. I am the true 9-tailed fox king, Vance scoffed. You bastard whelp, dare claim the throne? Know your place, kneel before me. With a derisive smirk, Baron advanced. As his palm unfurled, a wisp of white light erupted into radiant brilliance. In an instant, 9 majestic tails materialized behind him. Everyone froze in stunned silence. The 9-tailed fox king was indeed Baron. Speaking of which, how does the 9-tailed fox clan choose their ruler? It's always been determined by their tails. The more tails one has, the greater their power. Whoever possesses 9 tails is the undisputed Fox King. After treatment, Baron made a full recovery. He even inherited the legacy of the White Fox from Qingqiu. While my mother descends from the divine phoenix bloodline, having inherited her lineage, our powers will grow exponentially through physical intimacy with Baron. This surpasses even the effects of dual cultivation techniques, accelerating our abilities at an astonishing pace, and so Baron became the 9-tailed Fox King. Kneel before your king. Baron unleashed his regal aura, forcing every Fox clansman, including Vance, to their knees. 10. Clutching the royal hue I'd given him, he advanced step by step. Vance stumbled backward in panic. Stay back, I'm your father. I've never had a father who'd snap all 8 of my tails at birth. The Kitsune clansmen present overheard this exchange, their faces darkening with disapproval toward Vance. The woman beside Vance attempted to protest, but before she could utter a word, Baron ran her through with his sword. Nor do I have a mother who wishes me dead. The words barely left his lips when the sword pierced Vance's chest. One final gasp, then life fled his body. Dahlia had never witnessed such horror. Staring at the lifeless body before her, panic seized her. She stumbled backward, abandoning even Talon in her frantic flight. Talon was taken away by the clan leader to face ancestral justice, condemned to lifelong imprisonment in the ancestral hall. never to see daylight again. As for my Baron, his impending coronation forced us to part temporarily. We'll reunite on the day of the ceremony when I join him. The day after everything was settled, an unexpected visitor arrived. You've been reborn too, haven't you? Is that so? I smirked at Eli. So what if I did? I couldn't be bothered to play dumb, but Eli looked utterly shocked. Why didn't you choose me? You clearly love me most, so why pick that damn fox? He tried to step forward, but Roy blocked his path. He stared at me intently, demanding an explanation. I looked at him. But you killed Belle, who adored you, with your own hands. You said the one you loved wasn't me, but your beloved Dahlia. You knew. I wiped all expression from my face and issued the order of expulsion. Yeah, I got it. Can you leave now? Eli widened his eyes. No, Belle, it's you I like. You're the one I love now. I sneered. Just because you like me, I'm supposed to like you back. Who do you think you are? Let me make this clear. I love Baron. To me, you're nothing but trash. No way. You're mine. We're bound by a 3-life marriage pact. You have to be with me now. Or else. I stepped before him. Or else what? Otherwise, he'd be left with nothing. We both knew this truth in our hearts, yet neither dared voice it. Eli pleaded desperately before me. Since you've been reborn, you must know, we're bound through 3 lifetimes as husband and wife. We're destined to be together, in our first life. We were together, but I had to leave for the imperial exams. Then royal decrees intervened, and we were torn apart. 11. In the second life, I meant to protect you, but for the greater good, I had to make that impossible choice. But in this life, we're together. After learning the truth, the beast god granted my rebirth, giving us this chance. Belle, you should be with me again. We've been given another opportunity. I laughed, looking at him. Oh yes, in our first life, you hit our marriage to climb the social ladder, wedding the princess while abandoning me. Only after the marriage did you confess, letting her send assassins after your pregnant lover. Pregnant? I didn't know. I truly didn't. What difference would knowing make? In our second life, you knew full well I was carrying your child, yet still chose the world, sacrificing me to the heavenly Tao just to fulfill your grand destiny of saving mankind. I was wrong. I've truly come to understand that now. Oh, yet. In our third life, you slipped me slow-acting poison, you shattered our soul bond and nearly destroyed yourself, all just to leave me, didn't you? You know it all. Yes, I know everything, so why would I ever start over with you? Eli collapsed to the ground, tears streaming down his face. Forgive me. He crawled forward, grasping for my clothes as I stepped back. Never, not in this lifetime. I cast him out and delivered him to Dahlia. Let them spend eternity tormenting each other. Since I've done you this favor, don't be ungrateful about it. To my surprise, on the very day I was preparing to visit the Nine-Tailed Fox territory, news reached me that Eli had killed Dahlia with his own hands before taking his own life. I chuckled and said to Roy, who brought the news, serves them right. Then I boarded the carriage and went to Baron's side. On the coronation day, Baron approached me in white robes, took my hand, and together we ascended the dais. After guiding me to receive the kneeling homage of all Nine-Tailed Fox clansmen, he vowed, Belle, you shall forever be my sovereign wife. He knelt on one knee and pressed a kiss to the back of my hand. I drew him into my embrace and kissed the corner of his lips. I know you love me most, and I love you most too. The fox beast man I personally chose, the wish I made at the beast god's temple. Of course it's the finest there is. Eli probably never realized, even in death, that his second chance at life was the beast god's gift to me. It was never his sincere prayers. How could someone so selfish ever truly love me? It's nothing but obsession. Back then, the only reason he agreed to form a contract with Dahlia was because she told him, while he was drugged, that I'd been disowned by the He family and she would become its next head, wasn't it? Now he's reaping what he sowed, but it's all over now. In this life, I have been truly happy. Story 2. 3 days before the zombie outbreak, I returned to my hometown to stock up on supplies and fortify our house into a fortress. Remember the survival rule for the apocalypse: don't try to be a saint, and don't try to play the hero. 3 days before the outbreak of zombies, the company was laying off staff massively, and I happily said goodbye to the 996 work schedule, taking my severance pay to enjoy myself a bit. That's when I received a call from my brother. I'm about to head to the coastal area for a mission, and something seems off. You need to go home and stay close to our parents, he instructed. They're already buying supplies. Once you get back, check for anything they might have missed, prepare enough to last at least a year, and keep an eye on them. Make sure they don't open the business until I return. My brother, a former Special Forces soldier, now works at the local security bureau after retiring from the military. He is occasionally sent on special confidential missions. He knew about the pandemic earlier than we did, but back then, he only advised us to wear masks. This was the first time he spoke of something wrong and asked to stock up on supplies, so I took his words very seriously, packed up my things, and hurried home on the high-speed train. Drawing from my pandemic lockdown experience, I made a list of supplies to stock up. Upon getting off, I planned to head to the wholesale market with my dad, but I was stunned when I opened the car door. The 7-seater van was stripped down to just the 2 front seats by my dad, filled to the brim with various supplies, 50 packets of various brands of snail noodle soup, 10 packets each of hot and sour noodles, 10 boxes of various flavored potato chips, 50 packets of beef jerky, 50 packets each of spicy and less spicy boneless chicken feet, 3 boxes of coarse grain biscuits, 3 boxes of cheese wafers, 5 boxes of cranberry biscuits, also 10 bags each of my favorite milk candies and chocolates, plus a huge assortment of snack gift packs from various categories. Underneath, barely visible, were stacks of milk drinks. Every nook and cranny was stuffed full, and the most outrageous part was under the passenger seat, a huge bag of nuts, likely weighing around 50 kilograms. This forced me to hold my suitcase and step on the nuts, numb-legged all the way home. Upon getting out, I found a pickup truck parked in front of our house, being unloaded box by box. My dad said the truck was filled with my favorite foods, specially purchased from a large supermarket. While other supplies were delivered directly by suppliers, I realized my list was unnecessary. When it comes to stockpiling, my dad was the professional. Our family runs a bed and breakfast located at the foot of a mountain. We depend on the mountain for our livelihood. 15 years ago, the mountain was developed for tourism, and everyone in the village started running banbias. Now, with the New Year's holiday approaching and the area offering free entry, almost every household was stocking up. So our supplies didn't stand out too much. After 2 days of hard work with my dad, our storage was filled to the brim. One whole wall was filled with various brands and flavors of instant noodles, self-heating hot pots, self-heating rice, duck blood vermicelli, sesame noodles, canned meats, and canned fruits. Another wall was stacked with bottled water, plus 10 sacks of flour weighing 50 kilograms each, 50 vacuum-packed sacks of rice weighing 10 kilograms each, and shelves full of cooking oil, salt, vinegar, and tea. In addition to the 2 freezers we already had, we added 3 more, twice as large. A quick glance showed they contained 2 whole pigs, 100 kilograms of beef, along with plenty of chicken, duck, and various meats. The smaller freezers held different types of frozen buns, dumplings, rice dumplings, and soup balls, as well as pre-cooked chicken strips, lamb skewers, and popcorn chicken for the air fryer. They were packed full. In one corner, there were stacks of potatoes, onions, sweet potatoes, yams, and pumpkins, along with cabbages. In total, they likely weighed hundreds of kilograms. Another area held 5 boxes each of apples, pears, oranges, and grapefruits. Hanging overhead were smoked meats, sausages, smoked bamboo shoots, and glass noodles. A separate room was dedicated to household supplies, 30 packs of toilet paper, 20 boxes each of pull-out tissues, wet wipes, and sanitary pads for day and night use, 20 sets each of family-sized shampoo, conditioner, and body wash, toothbrushes, toothpaste, mouthwash, 10 boxes each, and 2 boxes each of dental floss and toothpicks, 10 boxes of hand warmers, and 10 hot water bottles. Each person receives 10 sets of homeware down jackets and thermal clothing, and 20 sets of personal undergarments for each season, spring, summer, autumn, and winter. We also stocked up on various over-the-counter pharmacy items such as masks, alcohol, iodine, vitamins, and calcium tablets, with 20 boxes of each for health purposes. We hoarded some mixed grains and instant powders like black sesame paste and soy milk. During this time, Grandma from next door, knowing I had returned, brought over some dried mushrooms she had gathered from the mountains. Grandma and Grandpa are our longtime neighbors, and they are very kind. My own grandparents passed away early, so they are almost like my own. Their son, like most people around here, made a good amount of money running a guest house in recent years, for various reasons, including his children's education. He sublet the guest house and moved to the city. The elderly couple, not accustomed to city life, chose to stay in the mountains. Now, it seems that only our family and theirs are the original inhabitants left in the village. Considering the elderly couple might not stock up much, my dad and I bought a lot more and moved it all to their house. If all goes well, it should be enough to last them a year or more every day. My mom endures our nonsensical buying spree, watching as truckloads of supplies accumulate that we can't even store properly. She finally lost her patience. Are your heads just for show, stocking up like this? Even if zombies attack, they won't bother with you 2 brainless ones. Her words turned out to be prophetic. On New Year's Eve, the zombie outbreak began that morning. I saw a video in my university group chat on Instagram, which seemed to show a zombie biting someone. The video was posted by a long-lost university classmate. Some people in the chat debunked it, saying it was just a film set extra, but that classmate insisted it was real, claiming it happened right outside her building and she had seen it with her own eyes, and that SWAT teams had arrived. I tagged her in the chat to ask where she lived, and she said Miami, coastal area, SWAT teams. Remembering my brother's words, I started to panic. Could this really be the apocalypse? I tried calling him, but as usual, I couldn't reach him while he was on duty. I searched online using keywords about zombie attacks, finding numerous videos, real and fake mixed together, making it hard to discern the truth. In haste, I typed in the chat, "The epidemic is serious now, and all sorts of diseases are surfacing. Those who can, try to stock up on supplies." I didn't know if anyone took it seriously. I didn't have time to see their responses as I rushed out to find my dad. If it really was a zombie outbreak, just stocking up on supplies wouldn't be enough. We also needed to ensure our house was impenetrable. First, we had to replace the old, somewhat damaged rolling door. Then, we needed to install burglar bars on all windows. Originally, for a better view, the upper floors didn't have them. We also had to replace all the glass. Initially, I thought of switching to tempered glass, but then thought better of it. If chaos ensued, we might as well go all out and switch to bulletproof glass, and add a one-way privacy film and weapons. If zombies really roamed, we needed to defend ourselves, not just against zombies, but also against people in chaotic times. A stun baton was the first choice, though I wasn't sure if it would work on zombies. We'd also buy some large machetes, military axes, and drones essential for scouting the outside world. My dad's bow and arrows had to be found as well, along with some extra arrowheads. He had hunted in the mountains with his grandfather as a young boy and even taught my brother a bit. And last but not least, water and electricity. Although our house still had spring water flowing down from the mountains, it was likely to get contaminated eventually. We'd also stockpile large barrels of mineral water. Securing a couple of water purification systems and water purification tablets is absolutely essential. At home, we have solar panels. In the mountains, the electricity is unstable and power outages occur from time to time. To keep businesses running, almost every household has installed their own solar panels. However, these are intended for emergency use, and we're not sure if they are sufficient or even functioning properly now. I need to have my dad check them out first. While he was inspecting the panels, I shared my suspicions with him. Clearly, he was baffled after hearing them. He has never been exposed to this kind of novels or TV shows. The closest thing might be Plants vs. Zombies. So he asked me, should we buy some pea shooters? That reminded me that we also need to buy some seeds, fertilizer, and potting soil. That's what all the apocalypse stories suggest. When disaster strikes, you either go out to face it or stay in and farm. Once again, as we set out to shop, I drove with my dad in the passenger seat, showing him Train to Busan at double speed, a bit of The Walking Dead, and some videos I found in the morning. I wanted him to get a basic understanding of the situation and tried to persuade him that, since our family runs a guest house, remodeling the house wouldn't be a bad idea regardless of whether the apocalypse comes or not. Surprisingly, he didn't dismiss these ideas as nonsense, which was beyond his usual understanding and beliefs. Instead, he asked me with trembling hands, "Does your brother have to fight these things outside?" I felt a shiver run through my hand on the steering wheel, and my mood turned incredibly somber. Still, I nodded and said, "Yes, so we need to protect ourselves and ensure he has nothing to worry about back home, and especially that he has a home to return to after victory." That whole day, no matter what I suggested changing or preparing, my dad was extremely cooperative. We worked together, sparing no expense to turn our house into an impregnable fortress. He even convinced my mom, who had been upset with us prodigal children, to buy some hens that were laying eggs and a couple of roosters to keep on the rooftop, where he tightly sealed it with soundproofing foam. On New Year's Eve, while everyone in the village was busy welcoming guests and making money, our house was bustling with renovations. A young couple came by asking if we had a vacant room. I was about to politely decline, mentioning the upgrades, when Mark, who always had issues with our family, sarcastically commented, "Who would dare stay in a house that's being renovated? Aren't you afraid of formaldehyde exceeding standards?" Normally, my dad would have retorted, "It's better than having hidden cameras in the room and being secretly filmed," but today, he seemed to have no interest in dealing with others and continued working anxiously. When the renovations were finally complete around 11 p.m., the outside was still lively and decorated with lights. My mom had prepared a table full of food and drinks, boldly stating, "It's rare for us to have a holiday too. Let's rest well and eat well. Even if it really is the apocalypse, we won't have lost anything." With the mood set, I closed the doors and windows and started projecting The Walking Dead for them. It was meant to be an immersive experience. However, after just one episode, my mom forcefully turned it off because the gore was too much to handle. during dinner, but even though the video was turned off, why did it seem like those howling sounds hadn't stopped? Why can I still hear noises? It seems to be coming from outside. After my mom spoke, my dad and I hurried to the window, pulling back the heavy blackout curtains. We saw what had just been a peaceful and festive scene outside, now overrun with screaming and running. It was like a scene straight out of a TV show had become reality. Under the dim red street lights, one after another, the zombies with grotesque faces and stiff bodies were howling as they chased the desperately running people in front. It was unclear when this had started. As far as the eye could see, there were already dozens of zombies. A tall man being jostled by the crowd fell down, and a thin female zombie immediately pounced on him, lunging at his face. She began to tear and bite viciously. The man screamed in desperation, pushing against her with all his might, but he couldn't budge her at all. This person, my father approached anxiously and tapped on the window. "Don't look anymore." In a swift motion, I pulled the curtains closed and dashed downstairs. Yin Yin, my father caught hold of me, his expression grave. A grown man can't push away a woman who is clearly smaller than him. What can you possibly do? In these turbulent times, we can only protect ourselves. We can't help anyone else. I realized he had misunderstood me. "Don't worry, Dad, I understand. I just want to go down and check the front door." My father sighed in relief. "I'll go with you." Bang, 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 bang. Just as we reached the stairwell, a series of loud knocks echoed from the front door. "Help, open the door, please help, save me." My father and I froze on the spot. The security monitor on the wall showed a long-haired woman lying at our doorstep, a zombie gnawing at her calf as she kicked and screamed, "Get away, save me, please open the door, save me." My father pulled me behind him and quickly locked the door. On the monitor, the struggling woman slowly stopped moving, then suddenly stiffened, raised her head, and stood up, lunging toward a crowd of fleeing people. She had turned into a zombie. It was true. Zombies were real. My hands trembling, I checked the monitor again and saw that the incident had started with a black car that arrived at 10:51 p.m. The car had recklessly sped towards us, crashing into a nearby stone monument. Within the camera's view, the occupants, covered in blood, crawled out, and when some kind-hearted people went to help, they were bitten. Their companions tried to help but ended up getting bitten by the newly turned zombie. A chaos quickly erupted among the crowd. Could they be playing? Don't young people nowadays like to engage in such elaborate games? I told my father to let go of any illusions, face reality, and check the doors and windows, making sure we had enough water. After rechecking all the doors and windows and installing barricades to ensure they were secure, I opened web. I wanted to search for news updates, but as soon as I opened it, I was bombarded with a series of trending topics, all related to a suspected zombie virus. Scanning through them, it seemed the entire country was affected, from north to south. Seeing the gruesome scene outside and the widespread situation online, I knew things were not looking good. Many people were posting online for help, but even more knew it was futile. After all, if it were a natural disaster, aid could come from everywhere. But now, it was the apocalypse. That night, worried about unforeseen incidents, my father stayed up on guard. I couldn't sleep either, lying in bed, refreshing news feeds, watching the situation unfold across different areas, and learning survival tips for the apocalypse. In the middle of the night, I heard my mother sobbing softly. I knew she was worried about my brother. Who wouldn't be? I watched one video after another, the number of zombies steadily increasing, feeling helpless. I could only send messages to my brother seeking some comfort. It wasn't until the early hours of the morning that I drifted off to sleep, only to be awakened around 7 by the noise of an argument outside. I peeked out from behind the curtain, and my breath caught in my throat. The night before, the darkness had masked the severity, but now, under the sunlight, the scene truly looked apocalyptic. The streets were either roamed by zombies or littered with the gnawed bones of those who couldn't turn. Seeing it with my own eyes was completely different from seeking thrills on TV. My legs trembled as I got out of bed. "Get up, have something to eat first." My mom prepared some bread, ham, and milk for breakfast. It's still dark outside. It seems I barely slept last night. What's going on outside? I grabbed a carton of milk and walked to the window. My dad pulled the curtains halfway open to show me. Thanks to the one-way film on the windows, we didn't have to worry about people outside seeing us. Prices are skyrocketing. It's $10,000 a day for accommodation, $5,000 per person for meals. If you don't pay, you're kicked out. Mark, who bought this place 4 years ago, has never been a good man. He bullied his way through the market, overcharged customers with dual pricing, and even got exposed for installing cameras in rooms and bathrooms to secretly record and sell the footage. Now he's exploiting this chaos to make a fortune from the disaster, just the sort of thing he would do. If you don't want to pay, try your luck across the street. They Haven't had any customers, and they have plenty of food. Let's see who can make it alive through the horde of zombies, and see who else but me would take you in during times like these. If you're too stingy to fork out 10,000, and you think your life is worth so little, go feed the zombies. Don't waste our food. I'll give you one last hour to think it over and gather the money. Anyone who hasn't paid by then gets out. Sooner or later, they'll turn their attention to our house, my dad said, looking across the street. No customers, but a stockpile of supplies. In this apocalyptic scenario, we indeed stand out, but there's no choice. We're right here in the village, and it's impossible to hide what we're doing. Not to mention, when we were stockpiling supplies, we never really thought a zombie outbreak would actually happen. Even if we had considered it, there was no better refuge than our own home in such short notice. They'd still have to get through the zombies and into the house. Our doors and windows are doubly secured. Our home's fortress-like security isn't something that can be easily breached. I told them to relax, finish their meal, and get a good night's sleep. We'll worry about tomorrow when it comes. For now, getting through each day is a victory. They went to sleep while I stayed by the window, watching the building across, downloading TV shows, movies, variety shows onto our 3 computers, and grabbing all the phones and tablets to download offline. Games and audiobooks. Survival is one thing, but we need something to pass the time. At noon, I cooked some perishable vegetables and made a fruit platter. It was New Year's after all. In the evening, I secretly launched a drone and found that our mountain village of over 30 households had almost 2/3 overrun. Only 6 households, including the one across from my grandfather's house, showed clear signs of human activity. The rest either had doors wide open with zombies moving in and out, or were tightly shut but overrun with zombies inside. Nearly every inch of the village was swarming with zombies. Far more than I had anticipated. The only road down the mountain was completely blocked by cars packed with people trying to escape. No new zombies could get in, and the ones here couldn't get out. On the second day, the national news officially announced the new virus outbreak, urging the public to stock up and stay indoors. They said that expert teams were working on a solution, and military and armed police were in action, even providing rescue phone numbers for different regions. They proclaimed with certainty that we would overcome the virus, but it was clear to everyone that the situation was not optimistic. Within just a day, nearly all websites had crashed, and only the central television station was still broadcasting, with just one channel functioning properly. Occasional arguments could be heard from the building across. When I sent the drone over, I saw a young man on the 3rd floor throwing his backpack out of the window, attracting several zombies from the neighboring building. On the 3rd day, it rained heavily. The movement of the zombies outside has clearly slowed down. I'm not sure if it's because they noticed this or if they couldn't afford the daily room rate of 10,000 anymore. Someone came out from the building opposite. They were wrapped up tightly, especially around their hands and forearms, thickly wrapped in clothes with only their eyes exposed. Judging by their build, they were likely 2 men. It seemed they had planned this in advance. Without a moment's hesitation upon exiting, they crouched and ran toward the neighboring house. Reaching nearby, they stooped to retrieve a bone-chopping knife from a backpack on the ground and charged into the next door. That's when I realized it was the young man who had thrown down the backpack yesterday, and I understood that their aim in throwing the backpack was twofold. Firstly, to transport weapons, because Mark would never allow them to carry weapons openly. Secondly, to create noise to attract as many zombies from this building as possible. This would make it easier for them to enter today and use the house, now overrun by zombies and devoid of any living persons, as their base. It was a risky move but a smart one. After all, it was only a matter of time before Mark would kick them out, so they might as well take their chances now while they still had the strength and the weather on their side. Our family gathered at the window, watching like it was the most thrilling action movie, observing how the 2 men cooperatively entered the house and locked the door behind them. Anxiously, we waited an hour and a half, and finally saw them reappear on the 2nd floor, covered in blood, cautiously holding their knives. They seemed to still be searching for any remaining zombies. Later that night, we saw them throwing bodies out of the 2nd floor window, followed by cheers and high fives. They had succeeded. Young people these days are formidable, Dad exclaimed, his gaze drifting, probably reminiscing about my brother. Their proactive attitude seemed to have influenced my parents, who brightened up after a few days of gloom, started cooking, watching TV, playing games, and even exercising. That night, the heavy rain turned to snow, unusually cold, and the power went out. Although there was some stored electricity in the solar panels, we dared not use it recklessly. We didn't turn on the electric blankets, just boiled 2 kettles of water, filled 3 hot water bottles, 1 for each of us, and fetched an extra comforter from the guest room, making for a rather comfortable night. By morning, the snow had stopped, and the outside was a pristine blanket of white, covering all the grime on the ground. If it weren't for the slowly moving zombies, the past few days would have seemed like a dream. Perhaps due to the cold weather or slippery ground, the zombies moved even slower. Other survivors in different houses tried to replicate the success of the two young men from the other day, but they were not so lucky. Only screams could be heard. The screams and the smell of blood attracted the nearby zombies, reducing their numbers near our house to just a few. Taking advantage of this, the usually quarrelsome group across the street also made their move. The burly Mark and his accomplices, pressing down the young couple who had asked to stay at our place, stood at the second-floor window, pointing towards our house. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but their intentions were clear. Looks like that brute really has his sights set on our house, my dad said, gritting his teeth. They're probably running low on supplies. No matter what happens, we ignore it and stay out of it. I pulled the curtains shut, preventing my parents from watching any further. I feared that with the zombies moving slowly, if the couple really got sent out to seek help, my parents might risk opening the door to let them in. Once that door opened, having outsiders with different intentions in our home means we won't be able to control the situation anymore. Don't worry, your mom and I have learned quite a bit about this lately. We won't act recklessly, right? Those TV shows nearly drove me mad. My mom gestured a throat-slitting motion with her hand. When the apocalypse comes, the naive die first. I couldn't help but burst out laughing. In the days since the zombie outbreak began, our home had been safe, but it had been a while since the atmosphere was. This relaxed, however. It didn't last long. Soon, loud banging sounds came from downstairs. Glancing at the surveillance, I saw the young man from the couple downstairs banging on our door with an axe in his hand. My dad cursed under his breath and pulled back the curtain to check the situation across the street. Unbelievable. They left that girl standing by the window and sent this boy to smash our door. Is anyone there? Please open the door. If I don't bring back food, they'll kill Anna. Please, save us, open the door. His loud voice was bound to attract all the zombies nearby. Opening the door for him would be insane. As he continued to bang on the door, he looked around in terror, probably because the zombies had already started to swarm. Seeing no response from us, he began to chop at the door with his axe. Please open the door. I don't want to die. Save me, save Anna, please. But our door wasn't something that could be easily chopped down. Damn it, this idiot has attracted a whole horde of zombies. My dad, standing by the window, cursed loudly and stepped back several steps after quickly shutting the curtains. Run. Why aren't you running? Yes, hurry to the hills. Take the axe with you. My mom, watching the monitors, was stamping her feet in anxiety as the zombies closed in. The young man's chances looked grim. Just then, the door of the old house next door suddenly opened. Quick, come in here. Old man waved the boy into his house. That old man's gone mad. I watched as the boy rushed into the house and shut the door, while the zombies swarmed around it. That old wooden door wouldn't hold for 5 minutes. I'm so irritated. I've prepared enough food and water for those 2 elders to last a year, and he still had to act all saintly. My dad was pacing around anxiously. We've done all we can. We left them plenty of supplies. If they choose death, not even a god can save them. My mom also tried to console herself. Dad, get your bow and arrow ready. When the time comes, aim for a zombie's head and shoot straight through. I quickly ran to the kitchen, tied the pork belly my mom had thawed onto a drone, along with an old mobile phone my dad had found somewhere, set the song The Most Dazzling Folk Style to play on a loop, and flew it over the zombies via the open window. The sound and the scent immediately diverted their attention from attacking the old house to following the drone. Now everyone's watching us. Dad, shoot a zombie through the head, then shout out, next time anyone dares to disturb us, it'll be your heads getting pierced. Understanding my plan, my dad opened the window, took him under immense pressure, and with a whoosh, his arrow exploded a zombie's head. With full force, he yelled out, everyone see this. I won't steal your stuff, but don't come messing with us. Next time, it will be your heads. He slammed the window shut, and I applauded, yelling that was so cool. How about that? Still got it, don't I? My dad looked for compliments, proudly. That was your coolest moment in 50 years. My mom gave him a thumbs up, praising him so much he almost wanted to open the window and shoot a couple more arrows, but we held him back. This incident protected Grandpa and his wife from danger and served a stern warning to anyone eyeing our home. Things should be quiet for a while, but just after midnight, the door of the neighboring house opened again. Under the moonlight and the reflection off the snow, I saw a sneaky figure, carrying a bulging bag, cautiously making his way towards the house across from ours. He was actually going back to rescue his girlfriend. I didn't know whether to scold him for being foolishly in love or to praise him for being a good man. At times like this, he still prioritized his girlfriend's safety, but it's probably for the best that he left. He should face his own life and just avoid bringing trouble to Grandpa and Grandma. I watched him slowly walk across the street. Just a few steps from the gate, he unexpectedly stepped on Something and fell to the ground. There was snow on the ground, so his fall didn't make much noise, which wouldn't normally attract zombies. However, it seemed he accidentally pressed down on a bone gnawed by zombies, causing him to stumble backwards several steps, unable to stop himself from letting out a low cry. I clearly saw two zombies, less than a meter away from him, turn their heads and lunge towards him with bared teeth. Open the door. Hurry up! He grabbed his bag and yelled as he dashed toward the door. Open up. Didn't you say you'd let him in if he brought back food? If you're too scared to open it, I'll do it. Anna's voice could be heard from the second floor. Are you crazy? Didn't you see the zombies outside? Do you want us all to die for him? If you don't open the door, he will die. What do we care if he dies? I have food. I'll give it all to you. Just open the door. Hurry. The zombies drawn by the boy were now circling the door, realizing those inside definitely wouldn't open the door for him. He threw down his food, which was no longer a useful bargaining chip, and ran back towards the elderly couple's house. Damn, I cursed under my breath. These two, don't be foolish enough to open the door for him again. When the boy reached the door, he pushed it open, and I realized I had been too naive. He had planned an escape route when he came out. He damn well didn't lock the door. But what about Grandpa and Grandma? Why hadn't they locked the door after all this time? Were they really that naive, or had they fallen asleep, or worse, had they been taken hostage? I no longer had the chance to find out, because before he could lock the door behind him, the starving zombies had already followed him inside. The door was breached, and horrifying screams echoed from within. I heard them, along with two elderly voices, the farmer and the snake. The comedy skit collection on my phone had just reached this point, and I could no longer laugh. The girl across the way couldn't stop crying until, under the threat of being thrown out herself, she finally quieted down. The next day when my parents woke up, I told them what had happened the night before, and the brief uplift in our spirits again sagged. Let's just take care of ourselves. At 4 in the morning the next day, as I was sleepily playing Plants vs. Zombies by the window wrapped in my blanket, I suddenly looked up to see the door across the street open. Immediately, my drowsiness vanished, and I sat up straight. What were they up to in the middle of the night? Were they going to steal supplies from Grandpa's room or attack my house? I gave up on the unclear surveillance and went directly to the window to look out in the moonlight. A slender figure appeared behind the door. Was it Anna? Had she also been thrown out? Just as I thought this, a sudden loud Swana sound pierced the silent night, eerie and jarring. What's going on? My parents ran out from their room, and lights immediately came on across the way. Matthew, come here. Amidst the Swana and the girl's shrill screaming, come and help me. You said you would protect me if I helped you. Don't go back on your word. Come here. Has this child gone mad? With that noise, the zombies will be here soon. My mom was extremely worried. Fucking bitch, you're looking for death. Someone ran out from the building across, a strong light shining from behind her. I could clearly see she was half-dressed, her hair disheveled, holding a phone in one hand and a kitchen knife in the other. My mom fell silent. We could all see what she had suffered. She was probably really losing her mind. Murderers. You're all murderers. You did nothing to help. You bullied me. You all deserve to die. Her slight frame, wielding the knife, managed to keep Mark and the others completely at bay. Matthew, why haven't you come over yet? You said you would protect me even if you turned into a zombie. They are bullying me. Come and bite them to death, she screamed in despair. Whether that boy came over, I don't know, but the zombies attracted by her scream had already reached her from behind. As more and more gathered, Mark and the others had no choice but to abandon the gate and rush back inside. The girl ran after them, hacking at the door, eventually being overwhelmed and silenced amidst the swarm of zombies. It was only a matter of time before the zombies broke through the wooden door inside. Soon, intermittent screams could be heard. Under the piercing sound of the Swana, dozens more zombies appeared in the village. After that, the village quieted down. Only occasionally, people would come out looking for supplies. Some returned lucky, fully loaded, while others ended up as meals for the zombies. A month later, from what I observed, there were about 7 households left in the village, including my family and the 2 boys who had run out from the opposite side early on. We lived in peace without any interaction, until one day, the 2 boys suddenly shouted out of the window, "Happy New Year to every survivor." That's when I realized, it had already become New Year. This day has passed, it's New Year's already. I'll go get some dumplings. My mom went downstairs to get the dumplings, while my dad stood by the bed and called me, "Come here and see, are they writing something on the window?" From our view, it appeared mirrored, but fortunately, their writing was neat and large, so I could make out the words Bluetooth, Bluetooth. They probably want to tell us something. I consulted my dad, and he suggested we just see what they wanted first. I turned on the Bluetooth on my phone, searched, and found a device named Those Two Guys, which must be them. I thought about it and changed my Bluetooth name to Exploding Arrow, and soon a picture came through. It was a screenshot of a note. Happy New Year, Uncle. We really want to eat dumplings. Do you have any? Can you spare some? We can trade you some cured meat. I looked up and saw them standing by the window, waving, holding a piece of cured meat. We weren't short of cured meat, and I didn't mind sharing some dumplings with them on this day. However, I only had one drone. I feared they might have ulterior motives. In these apocalyptic times, one must be cautious. I hesitated, but soon they sent another picture. We won't touch the drone. The control is with you. Why would we harm ourselves for no benefit? If Uncle agrees, you don't need to send it using the drone. I'll go downstairs with the cured meat. Just lower it down with a rope. Send it to them. My dad always saw the image of my brother in them. I could understand his soft heart. I could also understand humans are social animals. If we are to continue living like this, it indeed gets quite dull. I had my mom prepare an extra pack, put it in a lunchbox, and sent it over to them, seeing the two boys cheer and leap for joy as they took the lunchbox, immediately hanging the cured meat and waving and bowing in thanks. The drone had limited carrying capacity, hardly enough. For one of them, I sent 2 more deliveries. The 2 boys, overwhelmed with joy, probably had no food left in their shelter. They somehow found a gold necklace and a pair of gold bracelets and hung them up. Uncle, Aunt, and Miss, we really have nothing left. We can only hang up some useless things to thank you for a full meal. It gives us the strength to run out. You're planning to leave. I sent them a screenshot just like they did. I'm getting ready to go outside and check the situation. When are you leaving? Early tomorrow morning. I truly admire the courage of these 2 young men. Take the back path. There are fewer zombies. The only road down the mountain is blocked by cars. Be careful around the white SUV, the black Buick, and the Volkswagen at the end, as they have zombies inside. If you can drive, the 2 cars at the very front are safe to use for transportation. I relayed all the information I had gathered from the drone to them at my father's suggestion. We airdropped compressed biscuits and ham sandwiches enough for 3 days, and on the day they left, I also dropped an electric stun baton. If we can make it, we'll come back one day. The 2 boys were the first to leave the mountain village, facing the morning sun. They looked like the hope of a new world. On the 12th day after their departure, history repeated itself. Just after lunch, I heard indistinct shouting outside that seemed to be calling for my dad. As I cracked open the window, I could finally hear clearly. Logan, if you have any anti-diarrheal medicine, could you spare some? My son is really sick. I have 2 buckets of instant noodles I can trade with you. It's Kevin, my dad said. I wasn't familiar with the name, but when he mentioned his son was little Julian, I knew who he was. A sweet and adorable little boy, about 4 or 5 years old, who always calls me sister when he sees me and often gets teased by me as the romantic novel's young male lead. We couldn't buy cold medicine due to the pandemic, but we indeed had some anti-diarrheal medicine. Continuous diarrhea, probably from eating expired food or something unsuitable for children. What's more frightening is the possibility of another epidemic breaking out. We tied up a box of anti-diarrheal medicine and added some eggs before sending them over. We had 15 chickens on the rooftop, laying several eggs daily, so we had plenty stored. I also included a note in the bag: keep the instant noodles for yourselves. The eggs are fresh. When the drone returned, it had a package of seaweed, a half piece of salted fish, and a note attached. The note said that his family's food could last a few more months, but they had no medicine. They had searched the surrounding houses the day before without success, so they had no choice but to ask for our help, and they were very grateful for our assistance. We had bought a lot of supplies, indeed no seaweed, and that evening we enjoyed seaweed egg drop soup. And the next day we stewed the fish. Later, another family said they had run out of food and asked for our help, but we did not respond, and the village returned to its quiet state, with fewer and fewer people around. On the 127th day of the zombie virus outbreak, the peach blossoms on the mountain bloomed, my mother's vegetables began to sprout, and the hens on the rooftop started clucking as they began to brood and hatch chicks. On the 186th day, for the first time since the outbreak, a car drove into our village. I was sleeping at the time, but my mom woke me up and pulled me to the window. Several men in camouflage leaned out from an off-road vehicle, shooting a zombie dead. Are there any survivors? We are from the military, here to take you to a shelter. They drove around the village, shouting through a megaphone, military personnel. My mom was skeptical and my dad shook his head. I don't think that's the case. Let's not do anything yet and see what they want. If there are Any survivors, please make some noise soon. We have limited supplies and need to move on to the next station shortly. The zombie virus is still rampant and can't be controlled in the short term. The shelter is well equipped and secure, ensuring the livelihood of each of us. Finally, under their repeated calls, someone responded, "Over here, I need help. I've been waiting for you guys, soldiers." It was Kevin's voice. Considering the time, their supplies were indeed running low, although we occasionally tossed a few eggs to little Julian. It was like dropping a bucket of water on a forest fire. "Sorry, fellow villager, we arrived too late and let you suffer. Are there any others in your family?" A few men in camouflage, holding guns, blasted the heads of zombies blocking the way and drove towards Kevin's house. "There's no one else, just me." It seemed that Kevin didn't fully trust them either, so he ventured out alone. 13, soldier, what's it like outside now? Where is our base? When can we leave? Don't worry, we'll stay here for a day or two and take all the other survivors back with us. Go pack your things, especially valuables like gold and other hard currencies. Valuables, are these still useful now? When zombies are eradicated and order is restored, won't we still need them? You're right. They all entered Leo's house, and what they said afterwards couldn't be heard. They keep emphasizing valuables, definitely not real soldiers. Most likely bandits exploiting the apocalypse for profit, my dad said. Nowadays, what's the use of money? You can't buy food or drink with it. My mom puzzled. Perhaps the outside world isn't as severe as here. It might be slowly getting under control, like they said, establishing bases and gradually restoring normal life. Rescue efforts are also starting in various places, and they are taking advantage of this time to loot. The speculation greatly excited my parents, but now we faced a most severe problem. What if these people started searching house by house? We could continue pretending that no one was home, but they had guns. Although our doors and windows were bulletproof, the actual quality was unknown. What if they managed to break in? We couldn't even hide since there were always signs of someone living in the house, impossible to erase. After racking our brains, we had to admit that we were out of options and could only leave it to fate, praying that the worst wouldn't happen. Since the outbreak of the zombies, it was the first time we were so nervous, until 2 hours later, gunshots were heard outside again. "I've given you all the valuables, please spare me. There really are no other survivors in our village besides me." Indeed, they were robbers. Outside, Kevin's arms were bound behind his back, and he was dragged by several people with a rope, beginning to search each house they left. Their hands held more gold jewelry. After searching 2 houses, they gathered together, inaudible, but one of them pointed at Mark's house. Moments later, an SUV rolled over the zombies and drove up. "Why are there so many zombies in this house? Don't go in. The stuff we find won't even cover the cost of our bullets." I quietly opened a window a crack and finally could hear what they were saying. "Their house looks the most imposing in the entire village. Surely, they can't be poorer than the last 2 houses we checked." One of them looked around and suddenly pointed at my house, asking, "Is there still someone in this house? Why is the door locked?" My heart leapt into my throat. "No one lives in this house," I heard Kevin say. "Really?" But one of them clearly didn't believe it. He walked over with his gun and aimed it at the shutter door of my house. I was so frightened that I held my breath, terrified that this man might actually shoot through the door. "You better not be lying to us." A loud bang rang out, making the whole house tremble. The security camera clearly showed a hole in the shutter door, but the bullet hadn't penetrated the explosion-proof door inside. "The door inside is of such good quality." The man even seemed intrigued, peering through the hole. My parents and I were too scared to move, fearful that any slight noise might reveal that there were people inside. "This house really is empty. They moved to the provincial city last year because the pandemic hurt their business, and their bed and breakfast has been unsold ever since." Kevin was probably grateful for the times we had helped him by bringing medicine and eggs to his son Julian. He was taking a risk, explaining, trying to save us, but the man at the door wasn't ready to back off and raised his gun again. "Stop, don't waste bullets." Perhaps because our house didn't look grand enough to belong to a wealthy family, their leader stopped the man from continuing to damage our door and, unexpectedly, struck Kevin on the arm with a knife. The breath I hadn't yet sighed out was caught in my throat again. "Run towards the mountain." The man put the gun against Kevin's head and ordered, What are you going to do? Lead all these zombies away. That will be your mission completed." They were ruthlessly using people to their last breath without valuing human life. My father cursed under his breath in hatred but felt powerless. We could only watch as the zombies, attracted by the smell of blood, moved faster towards us. Kevin wasted no more time and ran towards the mountain. At least, if they needed him to lead the zombies away, they wouldn't shoot him dead after a few steps and let the zombies stay. As long as he could get out and hide, There was still hope for him to survive. There must be hope for survival. After Kevin had led most of the zombies away from Mark's house, the group, armed with guns, came out half an hour later, looking very pleased with their haul. They drove around and searched 2 more houses, seemingly with little success, and finally, there was silence. I wasn't sure if they had really left, and I dared not deploy the drone to check, nor did we dare to turn on the lights at night. Our family stayed up all night until dawn. Around 8 o'clock in the morning, we heard the sound of cars again, and only then did they truly leave. We waited until night again, making sure there was no more noise before I dared to send out the drone to check on Kevin's house. Little Julian and his mother had not shown themselves, probably still hiding at home. When the drone returned, there was a note attached to it. They were hiding under the bed in the guest room and hadn't been discovered. Kevin had left because there was no food left at home, and he had to take the risk. They were asking if we had seen how Kevin was now. We told them everything we had seen and sent food over to them. After a family discussion later, when we have dinner, let's include the mother and daughter too. After all, Kevin saved us at the last moment. Without his interference, we might have already met with disaster at the hands of that group. After all, as nature revives, the vegetables my mother planted are almost ready to eat, and the chicks have hatched. We can start to be self-sufficient. After all, we don't know when the next looting like this will occur, so we take each day as it comes. 3 days have passed, and Kevin still hasn't come down from the mountain. On the 219th day since the zombie outbreak, the peak of summer arrived. The weather was unusually hot, and it had been over a month without rain, leaving our drinking water supply quite low. But the good news is that the zombies from the village are nearly gone, their movements so sluggish they hardly pose a threat anymore due to the terrain. Even though the roads outside have been cleared by those people, no new zombies have come. On the 246th day of the zombie outbreak, after cautiously surveying the area with a drone, my father and I ventured outside for the first time. We covered each other, gathering 2 backpacks full of wild fruits and mushrooms to bring back. We slaughtered a chicken and cooked a pot of chicken stew with mushrooms, significantly improving our meal for once. Now that we've done it once, there will be a second, third, and fourth time. Standing on the hillside, my dad leapt out and asked, "Do you think it's back to normal outside, and we're just forgotten? How could that be?" I laughed at him. Others might forget, but could my brother forget us? My dad was silent for a long while before saying, "That's true." We both avoided the topic that my brother might have been sacrificed. On the 313th day after the zombie outbreak, I woke up and checked my phone for a signal, found none, and prepared to go up the mountain with my dad to pick persimmons. Just as we were about to leave, I faintly heard the sound of a car. I quickly deployed the drone to notify little Julian's mother, locked our door, and drew the curtains, fearing another robbery. But soon after, the sound of a child crying came from outside. I went to the window to check and saw that little Julian had run out. He fell to the ground, wailing loudly, with a zombie just a few steps away, slowly approaching him. This was terrible. Forget the sound of a car. Even without any danger, given the distance between the zombie and him, we wouldn't make it in time from opening the door to reaching him. How could this child have run out? How could Samantha not have kept a close watch on him? What are we going to do now? My mother was frantically worried, and my father's bow was out of range. We were desperate but powerless. Run. Just as the zombie was about to grab him, a roar came from the opposite direction. "Julian, get up, run to Daddy, come here quickly." It was Kevin. He was actually still alive. I watched as little Julian tried to get up, hearing his dad's voice, but overwhelmed by fear, he fell again, crying and too scared to move. The approaching car was now visible, and Kevin, limping heavily, was rushing forward, but the zombie's hand was about to grab little Julian. With a loud bang, a bullet went straight through the zombie's head. Just in the nick of time, I saw someone fully armed, holding a gun, leaning out of the approaching car. "Is that your brother?" My mother burst into tears. After running up the mountain to escape zombies, Kevin had fallen and suffered severe injuries, including a broken leg. Fortunately, he was saved by a Taoist priest living self-sufficiently on the mountain top, sparing his life. However, due to a lack of medicine, it took months for his body to start recovering, and just as his broken leg began to support him, he rushed down the mountain. Julian had run out because Samantha had fallen into a feverish coma. He wasn't adept with drones or writing, and he wanted to rush out and call us to save his mom. Fortunately, my brother arrived like a savior from the heavens. Not only did he rescue Julian, but he also brought along medicines, which he administered to Samantha. He informed us that a vaccine had been developed and was gradually eliminating the remaining zombies. On day 374 after the zombie outbreak, the last zombie in Yunnan was eliminated. It was a global disaster with massive casualties and immeasurable losses. Resources were still scarce, and the world was in need of rebuilding. On day 397, we celebrated the first New Year since the end of the zombie apocalypse. Our family's guest house also welcomed its first guest after the disaster. Actually, the first two guests, sister, Happy New Year. I looked up and saw the two young boys. It was good to see that they too had survived.